Chapter 246. Shirgu waved his hand and the golden brick returned to his hand. He stepped forward and stood in front of Lu Kei and the others. He taunted, "What kind of animals are you? Stand out and let me see your true forms. I'll see which one is suitable to be my mount. You'll be rich in the future. Fellow cultivator, be careful. They're all king-level bloodlines. There's a monkey king, a tiger king, and a lion-eagle king." Lu Kei reminded in a low voice. "There's also a bastard. I heard that this kind of king-level bloodline is the strongest. I wonder how strong you are with two bloodlines. Stand out and let me see. Maybe I'll choose you." Shi Ji's eyes were like stars as he looked down at the king-level cultivators. It was as if he was choosing prey. How could the king-level cultivators be humiliated like this? They were all enraged and started to fight. Boom! The 11 streams of energy were incomparably sharp as they tore through the void and surrounded Shirgu tightly. Heaven and earth are limitless, the brick is invincible. With the golden brick in my hand, the world is mine. I'll take care of you demons. Shirgu controlled the golden brick and its aura spread out. The golden brick instantly covered the sky and pressed down from the void. Damn! It's a divine martial weapon. Run! Ah! The 11 king-level cultivators were shocked and fled in all directions. Stay here. Shirgu controlled the golden brick and directly suppressed the 11 king-level cultivators. They were trapped in the same place and their legs were crushed. They knelt on the ground. You're courting death. Junior, how dare you use a divine martial weapon to suppress the same level as you? The king-level cultivators of the 10,000 races broke through the void and pressed down on the golden brick. Their aura caused Lu Kei and the others to cough up blood and fly backward. Hum! A sword roared in the void. Xia Qiue used all her strength. She could break through the sun, moon, mountains, and rivers with her sword piercing through the heavens and shattering the attacks of the king-level cultivators. Everything within 1,000 miles was frozen. She appeared in front of Shirgu. Her emperor's battle robe fluttered as she coldly looked at the king-level cultivators. You'd better not attack. Since you're here to challenge me, you have to accept the rules. The matters of the younger generation are the matters of the younger generation. Xia Qiue scolded coldly. Xia Qiue. The prince of the heavenly dragon sacred dynasty. The king-level cultivator clenched his fists and asked coldly. Yes. So, it's best if you don't force me to take action. There's no benefit for you. I've killed divine martial experts before. Xia Qiue looked coldly at the newcomer. Her eyes shot out cold light that froze everything within 1,000 li. The god martial expert's eyes were cold as he said disdainfully, "Don't compare me with the god martial experts of the human race. Killing a god martial expert is nothing. I could have done it when I was young too. Also, this little guy is fighting with a divine martial Dao soldier. It is not fair at all. I have to fight. Fair? What was fairness? Is it fair for someone with a king bloodline to beat someone with a mortal bloodline? He has a divine martial Dao weapon. That's a reflection of his luck and combat strength. You can't interfere. Otherwise, don't blame me for interfering as well." Xia Qiue warned. "TSK, TSK, TSK. Xia Qiue, why don't you have a match with this emperor?" The Qilin tiger stepped on the Tiger King's supreme body. His hand supported the blue sky and white clouds as he powerfully descended. The great Tao rumbled. The battle prowess of the emperor's son was also at a high cultivation level. His words and actions followed the law, and with a casual move, he could mobilize the power of the heavens, pressuring people until they coughed up blood. Xia Qiue flickered. Her fingertips moved the hilt of the divine weapon as she coldly looked at the Qilin tiger. Then, she said to Ge and the others, "All of you, step back." Ge took back the gold brick and looked at the king realm transformation with an evil smile. He didn't care about the divine martial expert and the Qilin tiger at all. Their battle prowess was high because they had cultivated for countless years. When he reached that age, he might be much stronger than them. The battle between the emperor's sons was about to erupt. The divine martial expert looked down at Ge coldly. The heavenly might was vast and mighty, pressuring people until they couldn't breathe. The Qilin tiger was considered the strongest of the emperor's sons. He was also one of the strongest of the younger generation so far. His cultivation level was the highest. Xia Qiue, the crown prince of the Sky Dragon Sacred Dynasty, was at the 9th level of the Immortal Gate. He could kill ordinary divine martial experts. His battle prowess was not much different from the great emperor when he was young. When the great emperor was young, he was at the 9th level of the Immortal Gate and had killed a top divine martial expert. And it was a king bloodline. That kind of terrifying existence was incomparable. Xia Qiue revealed a cold smile. He had long wanted to kill them. First, he would kill the emperor's son of the other side, and he was the strongest. It would definitely be a fatal blow to the 10,000 races. The human race would definitely be glorious. The cold sword was unsheathed. Its light illuminated the 9 heavens, and its aura filled the sky. "Brother Xia, this battle is mine." Boom! A surge of battle intent shattered the heavenly might. The terrifying aura shocked the elites of the human race. This kind of battle intent had surpassed everything. No one in the younger generation had such a terrifying battle intent. Zhang Gu of the Zhan family's Dao realm. Other than him, there were not many people in the Immortal Gate realm who could release such a terrifying battle intent. Just the battle intent alone could suppress those in the same realm to not dare to attack. Even divine martial experts had to retreat. Xia Qiue raised her eyebrows. She was worried that no one would suppress the divine martial experts and they would attack the younger generation. She didn't expect Zhang Gu to come. Hua! Zhang Gu, who was dressed in golden clothes, broke through the air. He held a golden war spear in his hand. His eyes were like the sun, as if a god of war had descended. His aura caused everyone to tense up. Even existences like Xia Qiue and the Qilin tiger were extremely serious. "Qilin tiger, I've already asked Little Helper to send you a message. The battle between you and me is inevitable. Let's do it today." Zhang Gu was as handsome as jade. He was incomparably vigorous. His words were filled with an irrefutable will. Zhang Ji's battle blood was extremely dense. There were already signs of ancestral awakening. Once it succeeded, it would be as if the war ancestor had personally arrived. He could kill the dead spirits of the forbidden grounds and make all races submit. "Is the Zhan family's Dao realm also glorious? Seeing that you haven't shown yourself, I thought you were a coward." The Qilin tiger was indifferent. The unruly evil smile at the corner of his mouth was unbearable. He looked at Zhang Gu provocatively and said indifferently, "I don't know if your battle strength matches your battle intent. I'll let my mount fight with you to test you." The Qilin tiger was extremely arrogant. He didn't want to fight with Zhang Gu at all. He actually let his mount, the Tiger King, fight with Zhang Gu. He clearly looked down on Zhang Gu and the human race. Although the Tiger King was very strong and could even kill people like Liu Ke, there was still a gap between him and a true emperor, especially in existence like Zhang Gu. Zhang Gu held his golden spear tightly. He was furious. Extremely arrogant. "Even my little helper isn't willing to fight with this kind of trash. You're using him to make up the numbers. Are you at your wit's end? Since you're courting death, I'll fulfill your wish. I'll trample on your battle bones and drink your battle blood to strengthen my determination to prove my Tao." The Qilin tiger clenched his iron fist. The Qilin tiger's arm shone with golden light, enough to shatter the immortal sect's Taoist robe. I think so too. Zhang Gu exuded an oppressive aura as he replied indifferently. Xia Qiue's lips curled up. Her eyes were fierce. She didn't fight with Zhang Gu. After all, Zhang Gu had already announced this battle to the world. Thus, she slowly retreated and looked coldly at the god martial realm expert. A great battle was about to break out. This had alarmed the Boundary Emperor in the center of the imperial domain. He personally sent a fake emperor here. Stop. Pass down the Boundary Emperor's decree. The emperors are not allowed to participate in private fights. Otherwise, they will be severely punished. The first row of emperors will be executed as a warning to others. The fake emperor expert warned coldly. Why can't we fight privately? There has never been such a rule in the past. The Qilin tiger questioned coldly. Right now, the endless universe is in turmoil. The emperors are the most precious treasures of the endless universe. None of them can be injured. At the very least, they can't die in an internal fight. If you want to fight, you can go to the center of the imperial domain. The Boundary Emperor will personally oversee it. It can guarantee that there won't be any deaths. The fake emperor expert threw down this sentence. He gave Xia Qiue and the others a warning look before turning to leave. Zhang Gu was unwilling. However, the Boundary Emperor's decree must have been discussed by all the Boundary Emperors. No one could go against it. Humph, consider yourself lucky. Otherwise, I'll definitely kill you today. Zhang Gu said domineeringly. The Qilin tiger sneered and didn't reply. He said coldly to Shi Gu, "Brat, I'm warning you. If you dare to take out the divine martial golden brick to fight with someone of the same realm, don't blame me for being impolite." Shi Ji's aura stagnated. Then, it exploded. He sneered, "Who do you think you are? Warn me. The people of the Kuang sect aren't afraid of you." The Qilin tiger was furious. He waved his Qilin arm and smashed it at Shi Gu. Boom! Xia Qiue drew her sword and pointed it at the Qilin tiger. She stood in front of Shi Gu and said indifferently, "You're a ninth heaven immortal sect imperial bloodline. How shameless can you be against a human great martial honorable?" The Qilin tiger looked through the shackles and stared at Shi Gu. His killing intent surged as he said coldly, "The Kuang sect. I'll remember this. One day, I'll let the Kuang sect understand that there's a price to pay for your arrogance. One day, you'll be trampled under the feet of the people of the Kuang sect." Shi Gu wasn't afraid at all. He fought back strongly. With two emperor's sons protecting him, who could do anything to him? "I do believe that." Xia Qiue coldly replied. The people of the Kuang sect were everywhere in the imperial domain. They swept through everything. Nangong Xiaobei had transformed and killed 7 royal transfiguration bloodlines. His power was monstrous. Everywhere he passed, he was covered in blood. He drew out the protectors of thousands of clans. However, he was stopped by Muyo Tianqian and the divine martial artists of the human race. Yi Mingxi's speed was unparalleled. Although she didn't kill anyone, her title of Little Witch had spread throughout the imperial domain. Feng Wuxia was elegant and charming. He didn't look like a cultivator. Instead, he looked like a gentle and elegant young master. His moves were smooth and unrestrained. He defeated more than 10 experts in a row and was called the Son of Wind. Huang Xiaohu was a weirdo. His profound of the law of gravity was close to the minor perfection realm. Any expert who approached him was instantly crushed into a pile of flesh and blood. They didn't even have the strength to resist. No one dared to approach him. The name of the Kuang sect was officially known. Countless people were inquiring about the Kuang sect, asking if they were accepting disciples and wanted to join. At this moment, Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi were brought back to the ancient massacre god by Di Shang. Di Shang's hair was white. He could live for 3 to 5 years at most. For a boundary emperor, this was just a blink of an eye. Qinghan, I can't hold on anymore. I can't see the glory of the human race. Di Shang's voice was sad. He had protected the human race for 1,000 years. It was a golden era, but he was about to die. No one could understand his sorrow. Chapter 247. Di Shang stared at the Killing God prison painting on the wall of the Killing God palace. This painting described the process of the Killing God Emperor suppressing the gods. It was like a world of its own, and only a quasi-emperor could comprehend it. If a false emperor saw it, their Tao heart would shatter. Only 3 quasi-emperors could enter this place. Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi were the first juniors to enter. Yi Qinghan ignored the Killing God prison painting. Emperor Yi blocked it with his divine sense, so he didn't try to comprehend it. He only looked at Di Shang respectfully. Qinghan, this old man is useless and can no longer protect the human race. Emperor Yi has the supreme zither immortal crimson demon physique, and Si Wuxia has the golden bloodline. They only trust you, so you must protect them well. They are the hope of the human race. Di Shang stared at Yi Qinghan and said in a deep voice. Yi Qinghan nodded and didn't say anything. Di Shang's decision to place his hopes on these two was the best decision. The insane sect has no foundation. After I reach Tao actualization, I will bestow the human sovereign sword to you. You can command the ancient killing god. I hope it will help you walk further and further. However, I hope you can agree to one condition of mine. Di Shang said in a hoarse voice. Yi Qinghan was shocked. Would the ancient killing god agree to bestow the human sovereign sword to a young Tao sovereign like him? Would the other quasi-emperors agree? Everyone had their own selfish motives. It was impossible to be truly selfless. What did Di Shang want from him that he could use the human sovereign sword as a condition? Master, please tell me. If Qinghan can do it, I will do it even if I have to die 10,000 times. Yi Qinghan bowed and replied. Everyone knows that I, Di Shang, have no descendants, but that's not true. This old man has a son. When he was 6 years old, I sealed him in the all-ultimate divine crystal and placed him in the human race's ancestral land. It's been 1,000 years, but he has no memories, and he hasn't grown. Di Shang revealed the secret that he had kept in his heart for a long time. Even the other 2 quasi-emperors didn't know about it. Yi Qinghan was shocked. He didn't understand why a 6-year-old child had been sealed away and placed in the human race's ancestral land. That was a place where the emperors might soar to the heavens, where the laws permeated the air and where the source energy gathered. To a powerhouse, there were indescribable benefits, but to a child, it would likely be counterproductive. You must be very curious as to why I would be so cruel as to seal my own son in the ancestral land of the human race. Listen to me. Di Shang's eyes were filled with sorrow. For thousands of years, he had a son, but he didn't dare to recognize him, see him, or even let him come out. He doesn't have an ordinary physique. I don't know if this physique can be compared to the human emperor's physique, but I do know that his physique definitely surpasses that of an ordinary emperor's son. When he was born, his body was wrapped in the mark of a golden dragon. His 9 claws reached the heavens, and his divine might was vast and mighty, as if a great emperor had descended. I spent a great deal of effort to seal the mark in his body, but as he grew older, I found it harder and harder to seal him. In the end, I could only seal him together with his body and place him in the ancestral land of the human race. I hoped that one day, I would be able to prove my Tao and protect him as he grew. Yi Qinghan sucked in a breath of cold air. Born with a golden dragon wrapped around his body, what kind of strange physique was this? It had probably never appeared even now. This is the divine dragon Tao physique. At the end of the Age of Desolation, one appeared. Unfortunately, before he could mature, he was killed by a dead spirit, which led to the end of the Age of Desolation. Back then, the heavenly Tao sent down heavenly punishment, suppressing even the emperor-level dead spirit and shattering the forbidden land. The divine Guqin in Emperor Ye's palm moved, and a large amount of memories regarding the divine dragon Tao physique flowed into his consciousness. Di Shang was shocked. This dragon bone Guqin had been passed down for countless eras, and there was nothing it did not know. Even if it had not been awakened, it could still kill a quasi-emperor. Once it was awakened, it would be comparable to the descent of a great emperor of the human race. What it said must be true. Yi Qinghan's expression was solemn. The birth of such a physique was indeed not something that a false emperor could protect. Even a quasi-emperor would find it difficult. From what Di Shang meant, he was prepared to let his son be born and let himself be his guardian. Master, you mean? Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly. It was already lucky that he was able to protect Emperor Yi. Adding on Si Wuxia, he would be targeted by the dead spirits of the Forbidden Land sooner or later. If he had a terrifying divine dragon Tao physique, he would have to be careful at all times. That's right. I hope that he can be revived and join the insane sect. You have to protect him until he grows up. Di Shang said in a deep voice. But don't say that he's my son. I've fought countless battles in my life and made tens of thousands of enemies. Once those people know that I have a son with such a powerful physique, I'm afraid that he will die prematurely. I have at most 1 year left. I can protect you for a few more months. How far you can go will depend on your luck. Di Shang revealed his own life. 1 year was the blink of an eye, and for a quasi-emperor, it was no different from a day. Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly. He had become a nanny with a group of children under him, each more terrifying than the last. In the near future, he would be targeted by tens of thousands of races and even the dead spirits. Without Di Shang's protection, would the insane sect really have a chance to grow? Within the ancient god of massacre, in a palace, the imperial left palace, quasi-emperors was Xian's palace forbidden grounds, Jian Qinshue was bathing in a blood pool. His body was red and emitted a 7-colored light. He was undergoing the ancient bloodbath technique to purify his body. Jian Qinshue's face twitched and his body spasmed. He was in extreme pain, as if every part of his skin was being tortured by a soldering iron. It was unbearable. Qinshue, hang in there. The blood in this blood pool has been sealed for tens of thousands of years. It's the essence blood of the heavenly snow empress. As long as you can withstand the blood cleansing technique, you will be the second empress in the world. You and she both have the scarlet snow body. What she can do, you can do too. The blood cleansing technique was the cruelest secret technique in the world. It replaced all the qi and blood in a person's body. It was like being reborn. Every step was like walking on a sword. If one was not careful, they would die. The heavenly snow empress was the first empress in the world. Wherever she went, snow would fall. Wherever she went, it would be a paradise. She could break the galaxy with a snap of her fingers, chase after the stars and capture the moon. Her will could suppress the endless universe, and even the dead spirits submitted to her. She left a pool of blood in the world, waiting for the scarlet snow body 10,000 years later. Ah! Jian Qinshue shed tears of blood. Her jade bones were broken and repaired continuously. The essence blood in her body flowed backward and shot out from her 7 orifices. The essence blood in the blood pool broke through her flesh and drilled into her body, creating new blood. This kind of torment was not inferior to the pain of Yi Qinghan building the gold origin Tao body. Yi Qinghan's will was absolutely terrifying. Who would have thought that Jian Qinshue could withstand it to this extent? I want to follow in his footsteps. My life is like a demon, I want to be an empress. Jian Qinshue roared. His eyes were filled with shock. His jade arms pierced through the void and his 5 fingers pierced into the iron pool. Blood stained the hull. My life is like a demon, I want to be an empress. This sentence explained Jian Qinshue's Dao heart at this moment. He wanted to follow in Yi Qinghan's footsteps. He didn't want to cower behind. He didn't want to be protected all the time. He wanted to protect Yi Qinghan and Kuang Zong. Will, at this time, only a strong will could withstand it. Every empress's will could suppress the heavenly might. Jian Qinshue's persistence was probably not weaker than a great emperor's. Sui Xian was shocked. This weak girl could reach this step, which was already beyond his imagination. He thought that Jian Qinshu could only pass half of the test and save her from the blood pool. He didn't expect her to resist until the end. Jian Qinshu had transformed from a mountain eagle to a phoenix. Once she came out of seclusion, she would definitely have the battle strength of an empress. The current Kuang sect was mighty. Under the protection of the empress, more than 10 young disciples killed in all directions. They showed the dignity of the human race and the arrogance of the Kuang sect. Nangong Qingyue's combat strength was extraordinary because of the bloody corpse Lingji. She suppressed the royal bloodline of the great martial venerable realm and was invincible. Lin Wuqian's sword Dao was unparalleled. He defeated thousands of enemies with one sword. He was extremely terrifying. I'm a disciple of the Kuang sect. You can't even defeat me. How dare you be arrogant in the human race? Lin Wuqian's eyes were like swords. He coldly glanced at a corpse and his protector, and a trace of disdain appeared at the corner of his mouth. More than 10 empress experts of the 10,000 races had appeared. They coldly looked at the disciples of the Kuang sect with murderous intent. In the eternal battlefield, corpses were piled up like mountains. There were corpses everywhere in the endless territory. Deep cracks were smeared with blood. It was terrifying. The evil aura here was enough to kill a great martial venerable. Those who dared to move around here were all terrifying empress experts. Of course, most of the people moving around here were not alone. Most of them were in teams. A team had 3 to 5 people, and at most 10 people. When they attacked together, even the dead spirits had to retreat. Xikong Qingjun was tricked into the eternal battlefield by the people of the Xiaolong region when he was a great martial venerable. He should have died, but not only did he not die, he became braver and braver as he fought. He had endless opportunities and reached the 5th layer of the Immortal Gate. He was invincible among his peers. He instantly killed dozens of experts of the 9th layer of the Immortal Gate and formed a tyrannical team. The Brother Team. There were not many people in the Brother Team, only 6. However, everyone's battle strength was about the same. They were definitely invincible among their peers. Moreover, their relationship was very strong. They could entrust their lives to each other. When fighting, there was no need to worry about their backs. At this moment, Xikong Qingjun was like a divine jade. He was about 185 meters tall. He looked young, but he was full of ancient vigor. It was as if he had experienced the barbaric era. His whole body was full of an invincible aura. A golden lightning rod shot out lightning. The origin of gold wrapped around it, reflecting the golden and black law patterns on the rod. The law of the great Tao entwined around it. It was definitely a supreme battle weapon. No one knew its level. He had gone through thousands of tribulations to obtain it. Light enveloped the golden lightning rod, spreading out layers of golden light. The rod's handle shone with golden light that captured people's souls. Golden Jade Thunder God Rod. The battle rod was accompanied by a hero. He had an imposing appearance and a monstrous battle intent. The ancient immortal gate robe fluttered in the wind. He stood proudly against the wind. His eyes pierced through the void and stared at a divine sword that was like a rainbow piercing through the sun. His eyes flashed. Lonely Sword Dao. Even if it was 10,000 miles away, this brother could recognize it. Sikong Qingjun had a faint smile on his face. He laughed and said, "It's been more than 10 years. Brother, how have you been? Where's brother Qing Han? Why didn't he come with you? This is the world of us brothers." Gu Qinyu flew over on his sword. He stared at Sikong Qingjun. He did not expect him to enter the eternal battlefield and obtain such an opportunity. Chapter 248. The Aeon battlefield was grey and gloomy. It was filled with a deathly aura. Even the mountains and rocks were blood red. The blood of the ancient experts covered the boundless ancient sovereign domain. The sovereign domain under the protection of the human sovereign formation was shattered. The ancient humans were in the most miserable state. The hardships of the human race were reflected in this place. It was difficult to move forward. They could be drowned by thousands of races and dead spirits at any time. Even the sovereign domain with the most powerful quasi-emperors would be annihilated. Sikong Qingjun was overjoyed at the reunion of his brothers. He pulled Gu Qinyu to his team. "Let me introduce you. This is my brother Qinyu. He's one of my 2 brothers in the Shaolong region. The other one is Yi Qinghan. I'll introduce him to you next time." Sikong Qingjun looked at his team and introduced them in a forthright manner. They are Caobiao, codename Stallion, Shengguanin Feng, codename Divine Whip, Tianyu, codename Goshawk, Sha Shinkong, codename Rookie, and Su Fan, codename Giant Sword. They and I have been through life and death together. We can leave our backs to each other. We're brothers now. Sikong Qingjun said excitedly. Gu Qinyu smiled. The eternal battlefield was full of vitality. It was rare for him to smile in a few hundred years. He had really changed. He was willing to open his heart and try to accept some people. At least, he was willing to protect the group of children from the crazy sect. "I'm Gu Qinyu. Greetings to all of you. Fraud's brother is our brother. My codename is Stallion. You can call me Caobiao or Stallion." Caobiao was a burly man. He looked around 30 years old. He was very sturdy and had a rough voice. "Fraud? Is that your codename?" Gu Qinyu raised his eyebrows and looked at Sikong Qingjun in surprise. Cough cough. Because I use a rod, they insist on calling me fraud. I'm used to it after so many years. Sikong Qingjun smiled embarrassedly. "Haha, my name is Sha Shinkong. You can call me Rookie. My name is Tianyu. You can call me Goshawk." The others introduced themselves one after another. They were all hot-blooded men who had fought in the battlefield for decades. Gu Qinyu nodded in return. "Where's Qing Han? Why didn't he come?" Sikong Qingjun asked. "Something happened to him after you left." Gu Qinyu whispered. "What? What could have happened to him?" Sikong Qingjun's aura turned cold. He gripped the golden jade thunder god stick tightly and asked coldly. Owl War Star was attacked by the great Buddha Golden Temple, Emperor Shenyi, and more than 100 great revered martial artists. They were completely annihilated, and Qing Han self-detonated. "Fuck your mother. I'm going to slaughter them." Sikong Qingjun flew into a rage. He didn't let Gu Qinyu finish speaking and was about to leave with his staff. "Can you wait for me to finish?" Gu Qinyu frowned. No matter how much Sikong Qingjun had changed, he was still impatient when talking about brothers. Sikong Qingjun suppressed his anger. His eyes were full of killing intent as he stared at Gu Qinyu. Gu Qinyu shrugged and continued, "I don't know what kind of luck Qing Han had, he was actually reborn on a small planet. Now, he has grown to the point where his battle prowess isn't inferior to yours or mine. He slaughtered 100 great revered martial artists from back then. Now, he's in the sovereign domain, but something happened to the human race, so he didn't have time to look for you. He specifically sent me to look for you and see if you're dead. Fuck, I won't die even if you die. Sikong Qingjun immediately scolded with a smile when he heard that Yi Qinghan was still alive. Do you want to go back with me and return to the Aeon battlefield another day? At that time, we can come together. Gu Qingyu frowned. Thinking about how the sovereign domain was almost in chaos before he left, he was a bit worried. Let's go. Sikong Qingjun led his team and Gu Qingyu into the sky, rushing out of the Aeon battlefield. The sovereign domain was now a mess. There were too many king transformation bloodlines, and they were too powerful. The human race's younger generation was pressured to the point that they couldn't breathe. Even if Kuang Zong joined the battle, he was clearly powerless. The all-extreme divine crystal was 10,000 times more valuable than the top-grade spirit crystal. It emitted a divine light that spread out in all directions. Di Shang held a huge divine crystal in his hand, trembling slightly. The hero had completely passed his prime. Yi Qinghan looked at the sleeping child inside the all-extreme divine crystal. The divine dragon mark wrapped around him, and the all-extreme divine crystal couldn't seal Di Longtian, who was struggling to break free. Di Longtian, Di Shang's only son, was sealed not long after he was born. Now, even the divine crystal couldn't restrain him. He wanted to soar into the sky and conquer the golden era. Di Shang tore the divine crystal apart. Di Longtian opened his eyes, and he was like a divine dragon emerging from the sea, seizing one's soul. Daddy, I've been sleeping for a long time. Di Longtian's voice was tender. He looked at Di Shang's white hair and asked in surprise. Just a few days. Little Tian, come, let me introduce you to a big brother. In the future, you have to listen to him. Do you understand? Di Shang hugged Di Longtian, tears flowing down his face. He couldn't hold back his tears at all. Yi Qinghan's eyes reddened, and his fingertips trembled. He didn't want to disturb this father-son relationship that had been separated for 1,000 years. Daddy, why is your hair all white? Wasn't it fine when I was sleeping? Why are you crying? Little Tian will be heartbroken. Di Longtian was confused. He didn't know that he had slept for 1,000 years. Di Shang couldn't take it anymore. He half knelt on the ground and hugged Di Longtian tightly. His voice was filled with grief. Emperor Yi held Yi Qinghan's large hand as tears streamed down her face uncontrollably. Once upon a time, she had hoped that her father and mother would dote on her like this. Even if it was just a smile or a hug, she would be so happy that she wouldn't be able to sleep. Di Shang's helpless appearance as he held Di Longtian in his arms had struck her soft spot. Woo-woo. Master, Emperor Yi also had his weak moments. He lay in Yi Qinghan's arms and cried bitterly. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and held back his tears. He hugged Emperor Yi tightly. At this moment, he could only give her a hug to make her feel warm. After a long time, Di Shang controlled his emotions and looked at Yi Qinghan seriously. He handed Di Longtian's hand over to Yi Qinghan. He's your big brother from now on. You have to listen to him, understand? Di Shang's voice was hoarse and filled with sobs. No, Daddy, I want to be with you. Di Longtian broke free from Yi Qinghan's hand and rushed back into Di Shang's arms. He stroked his snow-white hair and seemed to have guessed the reason, and tears flowed down his face. Daddy is going to a place far away, a place very far away. In the future, let Big Brother protect you. And this little sister, you have to be obedient. Don't make Daddy sad and worried, okay? Di Shang was as gentle as water, and he used all his gentleness in this moment. Daddy, Di Longtian's voice was filled with sorrow, and his tender face was pitiful. Di Shang gritted his teeth and suppressed his emotions. He said in a low voice, "Come with me. I'll take you to the God of Slaughter." Yi Qinghan was stunned. There was a separate world for the ancient God of Slaughter. Di Shang brought the three of them out of the main hall and walked on a path filled with killing intent. After a long time, they arrived at the back of the forbidden ground of the ancient massacre god. The magical runes of the forbidden ground covered the entire area. Without a special technique, no one would be able to enter. Di Shang pulled out the mortal sovereign's sword and stabbed it into the barrier. The sealing array automatically disappeared. This guardian of the human sovereign's sword is the only way to open the forbidden grounds. Without the human sovereign sword, no one can open the divine killing realm that the first imperial exterminator personally created. Di Shang stepped into the divine killing realm, and the scenery changed drastically. A magnificent palace appeared in front of him, and there were dozens of large stone steels in front of him. Below the large stone steels were countless smaller stone steels, as if they were arranged according to an array. The 10 large stone steels were inscribed with the laws of the Great Tao and Quintessence, while the smaller stone steels were inscribed with countless minor divine abilities, major divine abilities, and secret arts. Yi Qinghan led Emperor Yi in, and he was stunned by the dense spiritual energy here. He felt his blood boil, and he could feel the runes of the Great Tao on every inch of his skin. Remember, before you become a quasi-emperor, do not try to comprehend the 6 Great Tao stone tablets. The Great Tao stone tablets here contain the insights of the past great emperors of the ancient god of slaughter. Once you activate the insights of the great emperors, their supreme divine sense will instantly destroy your divine sense. Do you understand? Di Shang warned. Yi Qinghan and the others nodded. They carefully looked at the large and small stone tablets. There were close to 1,000 of them, and they represented close to 1,000 powerful secret techniques and divine abilities. Although the stone tablets seemed to be moving, if one looked carefully, they were still in the same place. If one's will was not strong enough, they would definitely be killed by the pressure and aura here. The strongest secret techniques of the past great emperors of the ancient god of slaughter are hidden here. The bigger the stone tablet, the stronger the secret technique, and the more dangerous it is to cultivate it. In the future, you must start from the smallest stone tablet. Di Shang explained one by one, then led Yi Qinghan and the others through the stone tablets and into the palace. This is the ancient god of slaughter pagoda. From the outside, it looks like it only has 2 levels, but in reality, there are 20 levels inside. There are 1,000 steps, and whoever can step onto the 20th level will be crowned Great Emperor. When I was at my peak, I entered the 13th level. I hope that one day, one of you will be able to step onto the 20th level and receive the Imperial Exterminator's inheritance. Yi Qinghan sucked in a breath and looked at the golden pagoda. This ordinary-looking golden pagoda actually blocked the path of a great emperor. Before you enter the gate of immortality, no one is allowed to enter the pagoda. Otherwise, you will be severely injured, or you will die on the spot. Di Shang looked at the golden pagoda with reverence and continued. Every time you pass a level, a secret technique will appear on every level of the pagoda. Everyone's fate is different, and the secret techniques obtained will also be different. Di Shang explained in detail, as if he was afraid that Yi Qinghan would not understand the mysteries behind this. Yi Qinghan memorized this place. Perhaps this would be an important place for him to nurture Guangzong. Go outside and comprehend the techniques. I want to talk to Qinghan alone. Di Shang waved his hand and said tiredly. Yi Qinghan handed the Enlightenment Lotus to Emperor Yi so that she could open her eyes and comprehend the techniques on the stone tablets outside. He remained in the room. A strange look flashed in his eyes as he thought to himself, the yin-yang flower can allow one to see through yin and yang and comprehend the great Tao. However, it can also allow a great emperor to transform into yin and yang and enter the cycle of reincarnation. Should I give the yin-yang flower to him? Once he transforms into Tao because of the yin-yang flower, I will not be able to do anything. Chapter 249. The killing god world was filled with majestic emperor aura. No one knew what Yi Qinghan and Di Shang were talking about inside. Emperor Yi held the enlightenment godly lotus in his hand and greedily looked at the stone tablets around him. He realized that even the smallest stone tablet had a powerful secret technique carved on it. This was the foundation of the ancient killing god. Every year, many young disciples of the ancient killing god would use large amounts of contribution points to exchange for 2 hours of cultivation time here. The runes on the stone tablets were fluctuating, making it impossible for people to cultivate in peace. Emperor Yi sat quietly in front of the stone tablet and comprehended. The 9 arrows chasing moon explosion technique was a secret technique created by an ancient quasi-emperor. It could shoot 9 arrows one by one, each 100 times stronger than the last. After 9 stacks, the 9 arrows would converge into one and pierce through a giant star. Unless a great emperor personally attacked, no one would be able to block it. Although Emperor Yi didn't use a bow, the strings of the divine zither could be turned into bowstrings, and the melody could be turned into arrows. When the 9 arrows chasing moon explosion technique was integrated into the zither, not only would its power not decrease, it would instead increase by dozens of times. Di Longtian didn't look at the stone tablet. Instead, he stared at Emperor Ye's back and walked around him a few times with curiosity in his eyes. Emperor Ye's divine sense was tyrannical to the extreme. He imprinted all the profound meanings of the runic Tao within the stone tablet into his mind. He also memorized the method of using the moon-chasing 9 arrows stacked explosion technique by heart. After a long time, he opened his eyes slightly and looked at the adorable Di Longtian. He smiled and said, "Little guy, what are you looking at?" "Sister, you make me feel very comfortable." Di Longtian sat cross-legged in front of Emperor Yi and said seriously. "Sister is a natural beauty, as beautiful as a flower. Anyone who sees you will feel comfortable." Emperor Yi teased. He really liked this little guy and couldn't help but want to dote on him. "It's different. I've seen beautiful sisters before. You're different from them. I feel that your soul is very clean as mine." Di Longtian said seriously. But for someone so young to say such serious words, it made people want to laugh. Emperor Yi smiled faintly and rubbed Di Longtian's little head. He teased, "Are you praising me or praising yourself?" "Of course I'm praising you. I'm a dragon among men. I don't need to be praised," Di Longtian said seriously. "Emperor Yi, your narcissism is really inherited from the parrot." Emperor Yi covered his mouth and laughed. An hour later, Yi Qinghan stepped out of the main hall with an ugly expression. Seeing the 2 little fellows talking and laughing, he couldn't help but squeeze out a smile. He pulled one of them with each hand and said, "Master is in seclusion, so let's not disturb him. Little Tian, from now on, follow me and let your father have a good rest, okay? And I will listen to father." Di Longtian was very sensible. He didn't say anything unnecessary and followed Yi Qinghan out of the killing god's world. In the imperial domain, the humans were in a state of decline. As long as any of the 10,000 races sent out their strongest young masters, they would be comparable to the top powerhouses of the human race except for the crown prince. They would be the top powerhouses with king's bloodline. As soon as they attacked, it was earth-shattering. Other than Tan Wuxia and Yimengshi, Huang Xiaohu, Nangong Xiaobei, Shi Gu, Lin Wutian, and Feng Wuxia, the others were all defeated. Even those from the 9th layer were defeated, not to mention the other juniors. However, the battle strength of the arrogant sect was extraordinary. Even if they lost, they could survive. The pressure on the younger generation of the human race was increasing. It was impossible for a few juniors of the arrogant sect to support the entire world. One race had lost, and the other race had arrived in a domineering manner. They wanted to defeat Stan Wuxia and the others by taking turns. Feng Wuxia and Lin Wutian fought 30 battles in a row. They won all 30 battles, but at this moment, they were bathed in blood and were heavily injured. Nangong Xiaobei was still fighting. He won 20 battles in a row, but he was not injured. He was the smartest. After a big battle, he did not stay for long. He immediately moved to another location, not giving the other party a chance to fight him. He repaired his body and fought again. The more he fought, the braver he became. Huang Xiaohu was the most relaxed. No one dared to approach him. Once they got close, no matter how strong their bodies were, they would be crushed by gravity. They could be beaten up by him, so no one dared to approach him in the later stages. Tan Wuxia unleashed the aura of the golden bloodline. He was absolutely invincible among his peers. His body was unparalleled. Those who were caught by him had absolutely no power to resist. Even the flying beasts were suppressed by his golden blood qi and could not fly. The 10,000 races were furious. The powerhouses gathered to discuss how to suppress Tan Wuxia, Huang Xiaohu, and Shirgu. Shirgu had killed many powerhouses with his big brick. Without the divine martial Dao soldier, no one could withstand his attack. That Tan Wuxia has the golden bloodline. Although he is now at the peak of the mid-level Tao Master, he can defeat the great martial venerables. Who can suppress him? Huang Xiaohu's law of gravity makes us helpless. He has infinite strength. Unless someone can kill him, no one can withstand him once they get close. Damn it, that Shirgu really pisses me off. A great martial venerable actually came out to fight us with a divine martial Dao soldier. How can we fight this battle? That little girl is too fast. We need to find someone with speed to suppress her. Damn it, where did this crazy sect come from? When have we, the 10,000 races, been so aggrieved? The transformed beasts were furious. They hated the people of the crazy sect to the core. Please ask the 12 great Saint Royal families to help. We are powerless. The 12 great Saint Royal families had noble bloodlines. They were far superior to the royal bloodline, but they were not as good as the royal bloodline. However, once there was a powerhouse who had atavism, their combat strength would definitely be comparable to the royal bloodline. A bunch of trash. You have such a hard time dealing with a few children. How dare you claim to have the royal bloodline? The Tiger King, the Mount of the Qilin Tiger, was a member of the Saint Royal family. He had monstrous combat strength, but he had become the Qilin Tiger's follower. At this moment, he had transformed into a human form and looked at the 10,000 elites coldly. The 10,000 races had a strict bloodline hierarchy. No matter how the Saint Royal family humiliated them, they would not dare to refute. They could only lower their heads and accept the scolding. I have already informed the Sacred Eagle King to deal with Yimingshi. The Sacred Bear King to deal with Huang Xiaohu. As for Stan Wuxia, I will deal with him personally. As for Shirgu, one of you can borrow a divine martial Dao soldier to suppress him and kill him. The Tiger King scolded coldly. Thank you, Your Excellency. The heroes were overjoyed. As long as they could get rid of the crazy sect, the other humans would not be a problem. Even if they were strong, they would not be able to withstand a battle of attrition. Don't go too far. Otherwise, the 9 great Holy Lands Dao Realm disciples will come out and force the Saint Royal family to come out. When that time comes, it will be easy to cause trouble, the Tiger King said indifferently. He turned and pounced in Stan Wuxia's direction. At this moment, Feng Sha had already received news that the Saint Royal family's experts were going to attack the crazy sect's disciples. He took the first step and took Stan Wuxia away. Rest for a while and restore your battle strength to its peak. The real battle will come later, Feng Sha said in a deep voice. Stan Wuxia's arrogance soared to the sky. His qi and blood erupted, suppressing thousands of miles. He shrugged and his bones cracked. The corners of his mouth curled into a proud smile. He said disdainfully, even if the imperial prince comes personally, I will still kill them if they suppress their cultivation to the great martial venerable realm. Xia Qiue took Shirgu away, Xia Ziluo took Yimingshi away. Almost all the young disciples of the crazy sect had disappeared. The experts of the 10,000 races were searching for them, wanting to suppress and kill them completely. Zhang Gu appeared in the center of the imperial domain with Xiao Tong's followers. He wanted to apply to the quasi-emperor to fight with the Qilin tiger. He wanted to destroy the imperial family first so that the 10,000 races would be suppressed. After fighting for millions of years and several great eras, the human race and the 10,000 races suddenly cooperated. The younger generation could not see the big picture at all. They only wanted to trample on the other side ruthlessly. They wanted to step on the corpses and walk to the front. They wanted to appear in the eyes of the 10,000 races and become imperial princes. Only by reaching this step could they prove their Tao. The top existences of the 10,000 races and the human race gathered together. They did not step out, but they knew the outside world like the back of their hands. Zhang Gu is determined to fight with the Qilin tiger. Do you guys think we should let the imperial princes fight first? Xia Qintian asked in a low voice. As soon as he said this, everyone fell silent. At this time, no one would stop him. However, everyone understood that if they let the imperial princes fight first, it would definitely cause hatred between the two sides. It would be difficult to cooperate in the future. Once Zhang Gu really fights with the Qilin tiger, Zhang Gu will naturally represent the human race and the Qilin tiger will represent the 10,000 races. Winning or losing is no longer important. At that time, the young children in the middle level will hate each other. Can this cooperation still continue? The third quasi-emperor of the ancient massacre god, Qin Yuan, thought for a moment and stood out to stop him. That's right, I won't sponsor it either. It's a golden era now, the world belongs to the young people. It's fine for us old things to just watch, but we can't interfere at all. If the young people hate each other, the human race and the 10,000 races will both suffer losses without the Ghost Emperor's help. The dead spirits will definitely take advantage of the situation and slaughter wantonly. The expert of the blue dragon race of the 10,000 races, Long Chu, stood out and said coldly. The blue dragon race was rumored to be the descendants of the divine dragon. They possessed the supreme bloodline of the divine dragon and had an unparalleled physical body. Once they became a quasi-emperor, they could sweep away all enemies and enjoy a supreme status among the royal families of the 10,000 races. If he didn't agree, the other quasi-emperors of the 10,000 races would also give him face. This group of little guys is holding back their anger and want to rush out. I'm afraid we can't not give them a chance. Why don't we have a competition, regardless of race, and only the top 1,000 will be rewarded? Zhang Yunxiao said indifferently. That's a good suggestion. Everyone agreed. Regardless of race, only the top 1,000 would be rewarded. The younger generation wouldn't have any scruples about whether their opponents were from the human race or the 10,000 races. It would be best if they could win. A group of top experts was discussing, but the experts of the 10,000 races didn't stop. In order to find Wuxia and the others, they had already used all their spies. Even wild beasts and birds were requisitioned. The people of the crazy sect were slowly being surrounded. At this time, Yi Qinghan was leading Emperor Yi and Di Longtian out of the ancient massacre god. When he smelled the scent of blood, he sent a telepathic message to Nangong Shen and the others. After learning about the situation of the crazy sect, a cold smile appeared on his face. Chapter 250. Disciples of the insane sect, head towards the buried emperor city. Yi Qinghan sent out a message talisman. Emperor Yi summoned the god-slaying eagle and flew into the sky with Di Longtian and the other two. The sound of the guqin resonated and stirred the blood of the heroes. Who didn't know of Emperor Ye's power? Emperor Yi sat cross-legged. Di Longtian looked at Emperor Yi quietly as he listened to the sound of the guqin. The dragon blood in his body boiled, and he wanted to erupt into the sky. Yi Qinghan stood proudly, his clothes flapping in the wind. He was as fast as lightning. The god-slaying eagle spread its wings and beat the river. When Qin Heng learned that Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi had appeared, a strange smile appeared at the corners of his mouth. The expressions on the quasi-emperor's faces varied. Some were confused, some were solemn, and some were delighted. Outside the void, the sacred Eagle King revealed his true form. His speed was unprecedented. His sharp claws pierced through the void and went straight for Yimingshi. The sacred Bear King transformed into a strong young man. His eyes were fierce and arrogant. He was led to Huang Xiaohu by an expert. The Tiger King's power was overwhelming. He attacked Si Wuxia, wanting to completely suppress him. Every disciple of the insane sect was targeted by the experts of the 10,000 races. They wanted to suppress them and promote the prestige of the 10,000 races. Xia Qiue, Heavenly Palace God, and the others were gloomy. They communicated with each other and rushed out of the buried Emperor city. They hoped that Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi would help to suppress the king and sage king bloodlines of the 10,000 races. The buried Emperor city was the largest city in the central region of the imperial region. There was a great emperor here who transformed into his Tao, and because of that, it was a place of civilization. Countless experts came here to pay their respects to the majesty of the great emperor. There was a stone tablet erected outside the buried emperor city. It was at least 300 meters tall, and there was only a single word carved on it. Emperor. It was only one word, but it contained the glory of the great emperor's life. Different people had different understandings. Different people comprehended different Taos. Screech. The god-slaying eagle roared in the void. Its sharp claws were like the most powerful immortal sect Tao soldiers. Yimingshi was blocked by the sacred Eagle King. The eagle looked at Yimingshi with murderous intent. Screech. The sacred Eagle King didn't say anything and pounced on Yimingshi, wanting to kill her. Whoosh, using the extreme Tao divine dragon steps to the limit, he created countless afterimages in the air as he dodged sacred Eagle King's attacks. Boom. Whoosh. 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 Yimingshi couldn't increase her speed. The god-slaying Eagle King. Screech. The sacred Eagle King roared again. Its sharp claws pierced through the void, aiming for Yimingshi's back. Sky-piercing technique. Sensing the danger, Yimingshi suddenly turned around and unleashed her full battle strength. True Yuan poured out and blasted towards the sharp claws. Boom. The peak rank 7 Holy Eagle King was not someone ordinary people could deal with. It was comparable to a crown prince, the chief disciple of a holy land. Its sharp claws were terrifying, and it directly pierced through Yimingshi's attack. Run. Yimingshi didn't dare to be stubborn. Her speed was suppressed, and she wasn't a strength-type elite. She could only choose to run. Xia Ziluo broke through the void and followed not far away. She frowned. The sacred Eagle King was suppressing Yimingshi. If the sacred Eagle King were to deal with Huang Xiaohu, he wouldn't be a match for him. However, he had an absolute advantage against Yimingshi. The myriad races had come prepared. 30,000 miles away, in the southwest, the sacred Bear King found Huang Xiaohu. The sacred Bear King, who was nearly 2 meters tall, looked at Huang Xiaohu, who was less than 1.8 meters tall. Kid, your battle ends here. The sacred Bear King's blood vessels bulged. He left a footprint on the ground with each step. He ignored Huang Xiaohu's law of gravity and kept approaching him. Huang Xiaohu clenched his fists and stomped on the ground. He wanted to borrow the power of the earth to fight the sacred Bear King. He was born with divine strength, so he had no advantage against the sacred Bear King. Hiss, space was distorted, and there was a terrifying shattering sound. The veins of the two experts bulged as they punched each other. Their fists were covered in flames, and the ground was cracked. Ah! The two roared at the same time, and their strength exploded again as they clashed. Boom! Boom! Boom, crack, the two terrifying forces collided, and the ground cracked. Huang Xiaohu's body could only be considered weak compared to the Sacred Bear King. Their strength was similar, and he couldn't withstand the Sacred Bear King's explosion. Roar! The Sacred Bear King exploded again after the collision, and Huang Xiaohu was pushed back a few hundred steps. His blood dyed the ground red. Huang Xiaohu was in pain. He didn't expect the Sacred Bear King's body to be so terrifying. The tiger bone in his right arm was shattered, and the golden bones were shattered. He borrowed the power of the earth to heal himself, but his battle strength had decreased by a lot, and his Jin Yuan had been reduced by half. Brat, I've said it before. Your campaign ends here. Prepare to die. The Sacred Bear King was only pushed back about 10 steps, and there was a trace of surprise and shock in his eyes. He didn't expect Huang Xiaohu to be able to withstand his all-out attack. Humph. Huang Xiaohu snorted coldly, and turned around to escape towards the buried Emperor City. Where do you think you are going? The Sacred Bear King was overbearing. He stomped on the ground, and his speed wasn't any slower than Huang Xiaohu's. Law of gravity. Thousandfold gravity. Huang Xiaohu turned around and pointed at the Sacred Bear King. Then, he rushed into the distance again. The Sacred Bear King's momentum paused, and he felt that his body was being suppressed by a force of 1,000,000 pounds. He immediately unleashed his bloodline, and the law of gravity was shattered. Nangong Shen looked on coldly from behind, and a cold smile appeared on his face. There were too many races, and there was bound to be someone who could deal with the arrogant sect's disciples. This was too disadvantageous for the arrogant sect. On the other side, the Saint Lion King had invited the Divine Martial Dao Soldier. Moreover, it was a revived Divine Martial Dao Soldier. Its aura soared into the sky, and the Divine Martial Dao Soldier's aura was vast. It pounced directly at Shirgu, wanting to suppress Shirgu and seize the golden brick. Shirgu sensed the danger. His golden brick had not recovered yet. Fighting with the Saint Lion King was the same as fighting with a godly martial artist. It would be suicidal. So, he turned around and ran back to the buried Emperor City. The arrogant sect's disciples all fled towards the buried Emperor City. Almost all of them were intercepted, and their opponents were specially chosen to suppress their advantage. At this moment, they were surrounded by danger. Even Yimengshi was severely injured, but she was still running away. Only Si Wuxia was domineering. He unleashed his golden bloodline and clashed with the Supreme Tiger King. Both of them were filled with killing intent. Golden bloodline. I would like to see if you are really as powerful as the legends say. The Supreme Tiger King looked coldly at the little guy in front of him. How dare an ant offend the Emperor? I will show you what the real golden bloodline is. Boom! An emperor's aura rushed into the clouds, startling the experts thousands of miles away. Si Wuxia's veins were bulging, and his golden bloodline was boiling. Like a dragon's roar, he became sacred and inviolable. He was like a great emperor, suppressing everyone's chi and blood. Only when the Tiger King roared did they realize how terrifying the golden bloodline was. It could completely suppress the opponent's chi and blood. If a cultivator didn't have the support of chi and blood, how could they fight with the golden bloodline with just their physical body? Little tiger, be my mount, and I will spare your life. Si Wuxia ordered coldly as he stepped forward and pierced through the Supreme Tiger King's body. The Supreme Tiger King was furious. In his life, he would only submit to the Qilin Tiger, a royal bloodline. The dignity of the Tiger King made him unable to tolerate Si Wuxia's disdain. He immediately unleashed all his combat power and transformed back to his original form. His golden body was more than 10 feet tall and exuded supreme majesty as he pounced towards Si Wuxia. Humph, you don't know what's good for you. Si Wuxia snorted and clenched his fists. He stomped on the ground and charged towards the Supreme Tiger King's head. Bang! A fist landed on the Tiger King's head. The terrifying golden battle aura rushed into the Supreme Tiger King's consciousness and stirred wildly. It shook the Supreme Tiger King until he was dizzy. He let out a mournful roar and fell to the ground. Boom! The Tiger King fell to the ground and dust rose into the sky. Wuxia grabbed a strand of tiger hair and waved his iron fist. He smashed down like raindrops. The Tiger King couldn't resist at all. The qi and blood in his body were completely suppressed by the golden bloodline. The golden battle aura broke his veins and blood stained the ground. Will you submit or not? Boom, 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 the Tiger King didn't even have the chance to reply. He was hit until he was dizzy. Feng Sha was indifferent. He appeared not far in front of Wuxia, guarding against the sneak attack of the 10,000 races. Roar! The tiger roared and broke the clouds. It struggled and tried to escape. However, Wuxia sat on its head. Every punch made its flesh and blood splatter. Too powerful. It didn't allow the opponent to resist at all. This was the golden bloodline, the bloodline of the human emperor. Kill it. Let's go back to the buried emperor city. This is your master's order. Feng Sha didn't want to waste time. He was afraid that he couldn't protect such a powerful Wuxia. The moment Wuxia's killing intent appeared, the Tiger King felt it. He knelt on the ground and screamed to show his submission. Let's go. Wuxia grabbed the tiger hair and shouted at the Tiger King, let's go to the buried emperor city. If you don't behave, I'll kill you immediately. Feng Sha shook his head. This golden bloodline was indeed terrifying. No wonder it could suppress the 10,000 races and the dead souls forbidden land when it grew up. The Tiger King submitted to the human race. He led Feng Sha and Wuxia to the buried emperor city. When the Qilin tiger found out that not only had the Tiger King lost, but he had also submitted to Wuxia, it was enraged. Immediately, it charged towards the buried monarch city. Even if it couldn't do anything, it had to kill the Supreme Tiger King. It was an unbearable humiliation for its mount to betray it. At this moment, Yimengshi was covered in blood. Her arm had been scratched by the sacred eagle king. Xia Ziluo was being watched by the 10,000 races. There was no reason for her to save her. Buzz! The sound of a guqin was heard. It stirred the blood of the 10,000 races. The buried emperor city was in an uproar. Even the divine martial artists came out. When they saw Yi Qinghan standing on the sacred eagle, they couldn't help but roar in anger. The sound of the guqin meant that the human race was about to counterattack. The sound of the guqin was rich and powerful. Heaven and earth rose and fell with it. It burned the blood of the human race outside the buried emperor city. Yimengshi got closer to the buried emperor city. When she saw Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi arrive, she burst into tears. She shouted, "Sister Emperor, kill me. This bastard is bullying me." Yi Qinghan looked at the sacred eagle king coldly. It kept attacking Yimengshi. Yimengshi was like a duckweed in the ocean. She could be killed at any time. He picked up Di Longtian and summoned his god-slaying eagle. He said to Emperor Yi, "Kill it." Chapter 251. Kill it. A cold voice resounded in the buried emperor city, causing everyone's blood to boil. Screech! Emperor Yi rode the god-slaying eagle and roared into the void. The sound of the guqin resounded through the clouds as he stood up proudly. Emperor Yi's name had long resounded in the imperial region. He was even more famous than Yi Qinghan. His appearance caused the younger generation of the human race to roar in anger. Buzz! Emperor Yi's guqin music ignored time and space and exploded in King Sacred Eagle's mind. The explosion made him dizzy and he fell to the ground. Yimengshi took the opportunity to escape to Yi Qinghan. Looking at Yi Qinghan, she pursed her lips and wanted to cry. She had never felt so close to death in her life. "All right, your sister will take action. Let's see how she will avenge you." Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed with killing intent. He felt that the myriad races were trying to kill Guangzhong. He clenched his fists and looked at Emperor Yi. Emperor Yi did not move at all. He ordered the god-slaying eagle to attack King's sacred eagle. They were both 7th grade divine eagles, so their combat power was definitely terrifying. Screech! The god-slaying eagle wanted to make a contribution. Its sharp claws shattered the void as it pounced towards King's sacred eagle, wanting to tear him apart. King's sacred eagle finally regained control of his divine sense. Seeing the god-slaying eagle pouncing towards him, he was furious. There were different breeds of eagles. The god-slaying eagle was only a 4th grade one. Even if it had evolved to a 7th grade one, it should still respect the sacred eagle race. Screech! King's sacred eagle spread his wings and charged towards the god-slaying eagle. The wind blew the sand and stones, covering the galaxy. The buried Emperor City became the center of the storm. Boom! The two divine eagles started fighting. Emperor Yi was stuck on the eagle's back. He was not affected at all, allowing the god-slaying eagle and King's sacred eagle to fight. The ironback golden wings broke the void. Feathers fell and blood splattered everywhere. Some belonged to the god-slaying eagle, and some belonged to the King's sacred eagle. One of them was fighting for its dignity, while the other wanted to please its master and establish its prestige. It was too dangerous. Thump, 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 everyone was worried for Emperor Yi, who was on the back of the god-slaying eagle. Their hearts suddenly raced as if they were going to jump out of their chests. The shame of the sacred eagle race. This king will send you to the afterlife. The sacred eagle king spoke in human language, its wings stirring up the wind and clouds as it killed, causing everyone to panic. The god-slaying eagle hadn't finished its transformation yet, so it couldn't speak. However, its crazy aura represented its determination to follow Emperor Yi. One day, it would become a rank 8 or even a rank 9 emperor. Screech! The god-slaying eagle pounced crazily. It did not care about the other party's attacks at all. It was fighting life for life, allowing the other party to attack freely. A piece of flesh was torn away by the sacred eagle king, and its sharp claws pierced into the sacred eagle king's metal wings. It forcibly tore the iron wings apart. Whoosh! Screech! The god-slaying eagle and the saint eagle king roared. Blood dyed the sky as they fell. However, the god-slaying eagle was going all out. It tore apart the saint eagle king's wings and stabbed its beak into the saint eagle king's back. It was doing its best to absorb the saint eagle king's high-level chi and blood. The saint eagle king roared. It tried its best to flip around, trying to shake off the god-slaying eagle. However, the god-slaying eagle stuck close to the saint eagle king. It waved its sharp claws and tore the golden wings. The golden feathers fluttered and filled the sky. The saint eagle king still couldn't shake off the god-slaying eagle. It could only fall crazily to the ground. Its metal back was facing down, trying to kill the god-slaying eagle. The god-slaying eagle rolled crazily and changed its direction, pressing the saint eagle king down again. The two divine eagles were fighting crazily. The situation was very dangerous. Whoever fell to the ground first would be severely injured. It was almost impossible for them to make a comeback. Yi Qinghan's eyes were cold as he stared at the front. Emperor Yi violently plucked the strings of the guqin and once again interfered with the sacred eagle king's consciousness. The sacred eagle king let out a mournful roar as his consciousness dissipated. Finally, the god-slaying eagle seized the opportunity and crushed the sacred eagle king to death. Boom! The saint eagle king fell to the ground. Its body was torn apart by the impact. Blood stained the ground. It let out a shrill cry. It was almost impossible for it to struggle. The god-slaying eagle grabbed the Saint Eagle King's metal back and lifted it up, slamming it into the ground. After 5 or 6 times, the Saint Eagle King was knocked unconscious. Its high-level blood and chi were all devoured by the god-slaying eagle. It was dispirited. "You are courting death. How dare you use the immortal gate realm god-slaying eagle to injure our Saint Eagle King?" The expert of the Saint Eagle race was furious. He didn't give anyone a chance to speak. He directly transformed into his true form and pounced on Emperor Yi. The Saint Eagle race was a top-notch expert of the immortal gate. It was terrifying. With a flap of its wings, divine light shot out in all directions. The expert was sent flying. Even the god-slaying eagle was swept away and thrown 1,000 meters away. Emperor Yi suddenly opened his eyes. The light of destruction shot toward the expert of the Saint Eagle race. However, the Saint Eagle race distorted time and space. The light of destruction missed and blasted into the depths of the wilderness. "You are courting death." Emperor Yi was furious. He directly transformed his body into a giant zither. Divine light overflowed into the sky. 9-star chasing arrows explosion technique. The strings of the zither were almost snapped. The first arrow was shot out with a roar. Then, the second arrow appeared with 100 times the speed and strength. It instantly merged with the first arrow. Shio shio shio. 9 divine arrows that tore through the void merged into one. They directly pierced through the void with monstrous flames. They were indestructible. They broke through the airwaves of the Saint Eagle race and pierced through the Immortal Gate expert's defensive barrier. They easily pierced through the Saint Eagle race expert's body. Boom! The Saint Eagle race expert's body exploded. Blood poured out like rain and dyed half of the sky red. His vitality was erased by the sound of the zither. A Saint Eagle of a generation died tragically on the spot. Grand Senior Sister is mighty. Huangzong is mighty. Huang Xiaohu fled frantically. The Sacred Bear King chased him until he was battered and exhausted. He was almost smashed into meat paste several times. At this moment, he was covered in mud and blood. After going through untold hardships, he finally arrived outside the buried Emperor city. Seeing Emperor Yi display his might, he roared in anger. Grand Senior Sister is mighty. Huangzong is mighty. At the same time, Si Wuxia arrived on the Supreme Tiger King. Lin Wuqian turned into a sharp sword and sped over from the distance. Shi Gu controlled the golden brick and used stellar transposition to break through the void. Nangong Xiaobei and Nangong Qinyue also returned. However, they were followed by terrifying existences. They were all experts of the 12 Saint Royal races. Li Zhichong carried Tai Hua and Little Li on his back. He was covered in blood and wounds. He forced his way out of the encirclement and returned to Yi Qinghan's side. He fainted on the spot. His defensive will was terrifying to the extreme. If it was anyone else, they would have died on the spot. However, he managed to escape tens of thousands of miles away. Yi Qinghan's breathing quickened. The coldness in his eyes grew colder. He bent down slightly and injected a golden pill into Li Zhichong's body. He then said to Di Long Tian, "Little Tian, stand here and don't move. Kill anyone who dares to come close." Boom! Yi Qinghan's chi shot up into the sky with the 7-foot-long berserk hammer in his hand. His disciples gathered behind him, and he faced the Sage Monarch clan's disciples alone. He didn't retreat, and instead, he continued forward. Yi Qinghan's eyes were cold as he looked at the Sage Monarch clan cultivators. He didn't retreat, and instead, he continued forward. A group of Saint Royal race experts who have cultivated for hundreds of years dares to chase down and kill a dozen teenage children from the Huangzong sect. You deserve to die. Yi Qinghan's robes fluttered in the wind as he stared at the 10 or so Sage Monarch tribe experts. An evil smile appeared on his face. The Saint Royal race experts looked at Yi Qinghan coldly. They didn't recognize him at all. King Sage Bear stepped forward and said, "So you're from the Guangzhong sect, brat. I'll send you to the Western Paradise." "Is that so? I'd like to see how you're going to send me to the Western Paradise." Yi Qinghan's voice was cold. Metal essence flowed wildly, emitting a golden light. He waved his hand and said to Emperor Yi, "Son, Wuxia, take them to the back. I'll take care of this." Emperor Yi and Si Wuxia quickly took the injured Guangzhong sect disciples and retreated. Yi Qinghan looked at King Sage Bear and the other experts indifferently. He raised his saber and said disdainfully, "Do you want to come at me together or one by one?" Everyone gasped. They'd seen crazy people before, but they'd never seen someone this crazy. Even if the imperial son had suppressed his cultivation, he wouldn't have dared to ask the Saint Royal race to come at him together. King Sage Bear was furious. He looked coldly at Yi Qinghan and said disdainfully, "Brat, are you tired of living? Do you know who this king is?" The parrot suddenly jumped out and laughed. "Aren't you just a big stupid bear? Do you think you're human just because you've taken human form and put on clothes?" Ha ha ha. The experts of the human race laughed wildly. They suddenly felt that the parrot was much cuter. Roar! King Sage Bear roared angrily and rushed into the distance. The young experts didn't dare to laugh anymore. Divine light flowed on his sturdy body. His blood boiled. With a light stomp, the ground outside the buried emperor city shook. "Bastard! I'm going to kill you." King Sage Bear's iron fist pierced through the void and charged toward Yi Qinghan with monstrous flames. The shockwave almost blew the parrot away, and his clothes fluttered. Yi Qinghan was indifferent. Layers of scales appeared on his azure dragon arm. He switched the heavy berserk saber to his left hand and swung his right arm toward King Sage Bear's fist. "Master, be careful. This guy's body is too terrifying." Huang Xiaohu was shocked. He was afraid that Yi Qinghan would be at a disadvantage in terms of physical strength. Yi Qinghan sneered. His metal essence Dao body exploded. His aura was like a rainbow. In the blink of an eye, he collided with King Sage Bear. Boom! The ground trembled, and sand filled the sky. The 2-meter-tall King Sage Bear crushed the ground. His entire right arm was twisted and broken. Yi Qinghan didn't retreat. Instead, he moved forward. With a twist of his waist, he suddenly exploded with 10 times the strength. He flipped his fist inward and attacked again. Boom! Ah! A shrill cry filled the sky. King Sage Bear's right arm was smashed into a bloody mist. His golden bones were broken and shot into the void. His body fell backward like a kite with a broken string. Bang! The strong King Sage Bear fell dozens of meters away. The ground cracked and blood splattered everywhere. He fainted on the spot. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air, stunned by Yi Qinghan's physical body. This wasn't something a human could do. Dust rose around Yi Qinghan, blocking everyone's vision. The Sage Monarch tribe's experts looked at the cloud of dust in shock. They found that there was no movement there. Yi Qinghan didn't even take a step back. Don't tell me he was smashed into nothingness by that punch. How can he not take a step back? The Sage Monarch tribe's experts couldn't believe it. They scanned the area with their divine senses but couldn't find any trace of Yi Qinghan. They looked expectantly at the center of the dust cloud. When the dust cloud dissipated, Yi Qinghan stood proudly with his hammer in hand. The ground beneath his feet seemed to have been frozen solid. There wasn't even a crack. His bold face revealed a hint of mockery as he looked coldly at everyone. The humans stopped breathing. There was a deathly silence. Then, they roared in unison. There was no need for a rehearsal. Quanzong is mighty. The sound waves pierced through the air and reached the great hall where the boundary emperors were gathered. Chapter 252. After the dust settled, Yi Qinghan stood proudly with his frenzied saber stabbed into the ground. He stared coldly at the 10 sage royal tribe cultivators, one of whom was holding a divine martial Dao weapon. The sacred bear king's body was twisted as he bathed in the river of blood. The punch had almost killed him. Yi Qinghan pulled out his frenzied saber and held it with both hands. He forcefully manipulated the force of heaven and earth, causing the heavens to rumble and the laws to descend. The origin of water turned into a water dragon that coiled around the golden body. The dark elemental ultimacy was full of corrosive power as it wrapped around Yi Qinghan. The sharp saber light covered the sky and earth. Trash like you only dares to chase after a 10-year-old child. All of you, come at me together. I'll let you know that the people of the insane sect are not so easily bullied. The 10 sage royal tribe cultivators' faces turned pale. Although they were not the top cultivators in their tribe, any one of them could defeat an entire region. At this moment, they were being humiliated by Yi Qinghan. He wanted to fight against 10 of them. Kid, you're too arrogant. The sacred Lion King's aura exploded and shot up into the sky. The divine martial Dao weapon in his hand exuded a terrifying aura. You want to use the divine martial Dao weapon to suppress me? Yi Qinghan smirked and asked indifferently. I don't need the divine martial Dao weapon to fight you. The sacred Lion King was disdainful. His fingertips trembled and the divine martial Dao weapon was imprisoned in his sea of consciousness. He stepped forward and was about to attack. The human cultivators rushed forward. Even if they could not attack, they had to cheer for the insane sect and Yi Qinghan. They did not want to stand by and watch. Humans were all hot-blooded. This was the most crucial moment for the human race. Humph! A cold snort echoed in the hearts of everyone outside the buried emperor city. It was as if it could freeze people's hearts and kill their souls. The Qilin tiger wore a golden crown and an imperial robe. He appeared outside the buried emperor city in the blink of an eye. He coldly glanced at the people of the insane sect and fixed his gaze on Yi Qinghan and Wuxia. The murderous intent in his eyes was self-evident. It's you again, brat. I haven't settled the score with you for what happened last time, and now you've offended me again. The Qilin tiger clenched its fists. It really wanted to attack, but it was afraid that others would say that it was bullying the weak. In the end, it held back. What? You still want to have a taste of that? Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows, unwilling to be outdone. So what if his cultivation level was lower? He would still scare the Qilin tiger into not daring to attack. The Qilin tiger was really afraid. He was afraid that Yi Qinghan still had the sealed dead soul in his hands. If he angered a madman like Yi Qinghan, he would not care where he was. He would throw out the dead soul and everyone would die. Heavenly Palace God, Xia Qiyue, and the others appeared with evil smiles on their faces. Now that Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi had appeared, no one below the immortal sect was a match for them. This battle would be a beautiful one for the humans. Zhang Gu held his spear and stood on the city wall. He said from a distance, Qilin tiger, I really want to fight with you. Unfortunately, I don't have the chance. If you have the guts, you can attack my human juniors first. I'll skin you alive today. The Qilin tiger was furious. Princes were not allowed to fight to the death. Was Zhang Gu seizing this opportunity to humiliate it? Kikik, the Qilin tiger clenched his fists so tightly that it made cracking sounds. The flames in his eyes were almost tangible. He sneered and scolded Yi Qinghan and Zhang Gu, you're the one who started it. One day, I'll make you understand that the only result of provoking me is death. Then I'll wait. One day, you'll use those words on yourself, Zhang Gu replied forcefully. The Qilin tiger didn't want to talk to Zhang Gu. At this time, the Boundary Emperor didn't allow princes to fight, so he couldn't fight with Zhang Gu. Instead, he stared at Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan was the person he hated the most. When they first met, Yi Qinghan used a dead spirit seal to force him to retreat. The Qilin tiger also ruined the plans of the myriad tribes. The second time they met, Yi Qinghan's disciple stole his mount. The Qilin tiger coldly looked at the Qilin tiger and said, "Whoever kills a member of the Kuang sect will be my follower and lead you to glory. If anyone manages to kill Yi Qinghan, I promise that I will give him an 8th rank secret skill and teach him for a year." The Qilin tiger said coldly as he turned around to look at the 10 royal sacred clan cultivators. The sage monarch tribe was overjoyed. They thought they were invincible in the same realm except for the imperial bloodline. Those terrifying existences were not people they could compare to. It was their honor to be able to follow the imperial bloodline and witness the glory of the Tao. If they could obtain an 8th grade secret technique, their combat strength would increase greatly. It wouldn't be a problem for them to raise the level of their race. "I'll do it." The Saint Lion King returned to his original body. His golden hair shone, and he looked majestic. His tall body stood proudly, looking down at Yi Qinghan. He bared his fangs and looked terrifying. Everyone retreated 1,000 meters away, leaving the center of the battlefield to Yi Qinghan and the Saint Lion King. The Heavenly Palace God and the others stared at the Qilin tiger, afraid that he would suddenly attack Yi Qinghan. The human race couldn't completely fall out with the myriad tribes, so they could only grit their teeth and endure. The Qilin tiger and the 3 princes of the human race stood together. They looked at Yi Qinghan and the Saint Lion King indifferently, waiting for the battle to begin. Yi Qinghan stepped forward and raised his saber. His domineering aura covered the sky. The sharp saber light tore through the void and pointed at the Saint Lion King. His aura grew stronger and stronger, as if he was going to break the universe. He said coldly, "Make your move. Otherwise, don't blame me for not giving you a chance." Yi Qinghan wanted to establish his might for the human race and the Kuang zone. Roar! The Saint Lion King's hair stood on end. He didn't want Yi Qinghan's aura to rise any further. Otherwise, he wouldn't dare to attack again. His 4 limbs roared, and his fangs broke the shackles. He pounced at Yi Qinghan like lightning. "You're courting death." Yi Qinghan poured his vital essence into the heavy frenzy saber. The heavy frenzy saber was attached to the elements of the law. It moved slowly and stood straight. Heavy frenzy God-seizing technique. Boom! The source of the great Tao was under this saber. It stole one's soul and was indestructible. There was nothing it couldn't break. A cold light broke through the shackles of time and space and disappeared without a trace. Yi Qinghan had also disappeared. The Qilin tiger's pupils constricted. Not good, the spatial laws. The Saint Lion King is definitely not Yi Qinghan's match. The moment Yi Qinghan disappeared, the heavy manic saber tore through the void and appeared above the Saint Lion King. It raised its saber and slashed down at the Saint Lion King's head. The chi wave was so oppressive that the ground caved in. The wind and sand danced in the air. Boom! The Saint Lion King was shocked. He felt as if his limbs were filled with lead. The pressure and gravity around him increased by more than 1,000 times. He couldn't move. He looked up and saw the saber slash at him. Roar! The Saint Lion King roared in grief. He fell to his knees, and the ground beneath his feet cracked. Roar! The divine martial Tao soldier in the Saint Lion King's consciousness awakened. It protected the Saint Lion King and launched a counterattack. Yi Qinghan was caught off guard. His expression changed and he coughed up blood. He reached out and grabbed the human sovereign sword that Emperor Shang had given him. He didn't need to awaken it. With a slash, he split the divine martial Tao soldier and the Saint Lion King apart. The human sovereign's aura erupted, alarming the boundary emperors in the city. Boom! Whoosh! The sword light flashed. A terrifying and bottomless ravine appeared outside the buried emperor city. The sword light shot toward the city and activated the emperor-level array. A divine light flashed, shaking thousands of miles. The emperor's aura was vast and mighty. The emperor-level runes counterattacked and attacked outside the city. The human sovereign's sword was too terrifying. Even if it hadn't awakened, it had activated the emperor-level array. The boundary emperors were scared pale. They watched helplessly as the emperor-level array awakened and tried to destroy everything outside the city. Roar! Yi Qinghan was also frightened. He looked up at the emperor-level runes that were tearing through the air, trying to destroy everything. His palms were cold and his eyes were full of fear. If the emperor-level array swept past, everyone in front of him would die, including the people from the insane sect. The mortal sovereign's sword suddenly erupted, forcibly absorbing Yi Qinghan's Jin Yuan, instantly draining him of his strength. With a long howl, the mortal sovereign's sword awakened. It was as if the first imperial exterminator had arrived. Its imperial might spread out, and all of the imperial runes dissipated, returning to the grand formation. The emperor-level array was obviously not ordinary. It could distinguish between friend and foe. As soon as the human sovereign's sword awakened, it immediately calmed down. The human sovereign's sword. How could it be in his hands? The experts from the 10,000 races and the human clan turned pale. They felt as if they had one foot in hell and were pulled back by the human sovereign sword. They looked at each other and trembled when they saw the human sovereign sword in Yi Qinghan's hand. The Qilin tiger was furious. He expressed his dissatisfaction with Yi Qinghan's actions. Fuck. You can't use the power that you can't control. Do you want to get everyone killed? The Qilin tiger was thoroughly enraged. However, it looked at Yi Qinghan with a hint of wariness in its eyes. Its blood boiled and it roared. In its heart, it felt that Yi Qinghan was a scourge that would harm it sooner or later. Yi Qinghan held the human sovereign sword. His murderous intent radiated and his eyes were like torches. He glanced at the Qilin tiger as if the human sovereign had arrived. The two quasi-emperors, Wuxia and Qinheng, looked at the awakened human sovereign sword. Their Dao hearts trembled. They knelt down and said respectfully, "Welcome, human sovereign. Welcome, human sovereign." The 10,000 heroes of the human clan knelt down without hesitation. They were not kneeling to Yi Qinghan but to the human sovereign sword. The human sovereign sword had not awakened for a long time. They did not expect it to awaken on its own today. The experts from the 10,000 races were shocked. They did not dare to blaspheme the human sovereign sword and knelt down. Even the quasi-emperors submitted to the human sovereign sword and said respectfully, "Welcome, human sovereign." The corner of the Qilin tiger's mouth twitched. He was filled with hatred. He had no choice but to kneel. The human sovereign sword could not be blasphemed. Just like the human sovereign, who dared not to kneel. However, he hated that Yi Qinghan was the one who held the human sovereign sword. If it was Di Shang, he would have let it go. However, he was not willing to kneel to Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan pointed the sword at the Qilin tiger. He was filled with murderous intent. If he did not kneel today, he would definitely use the human sovereign sword to kill him. The human sovereign sword seemed to have a soul. It stared at the Qilin tiger. He was so frightened that he knelt down and said hurriedly, "Junior welcomes the awakening of the human sovereign sword." The human sovereign's aura caused the 10,000 Daos to retreat. A wisp of aura instantly pierced through the imperial region and swept across the endless universe. Yi Qinghan looked at the universe with the help of the human sovereign's aura. He was stunned by the vastness of the universe. The 10,000 races and the human race were indeed frogs at the bottom of a well. They did not understand the vastness of the universe. In the blink of an eye, the human sovereign's aura brought Yi Qinghan's divine sense into the forbidden area. He looked down at the dead spirits and was shocked by the countless powerful dead spirits. The divine medicine and sacred medicine were imprisoned in the forbidden area. The dead spirits could not get close. Endless death qi filled the air. Even the laws of time could not get close. It was as if everything here was forbidden. The human sovereign's aura alarmed the powerful dead spirits in the depths of the forbidden area. They awakened one after another, their aura overflowing. Chapter 253. Within the forbidden land, the aura of the human emperor drifted about. It was as if the emperor himself had arrived, causing the dead spirit's hair to stand on end. It's the exterminating emperor's aura. Is he still alive? Impossible. He's the emperor of the ancient era. How could he still be alive? The experts woke up one after another. These were all emperor-level dead spirits, and there were even traitors of the human race. Their eyes were filled with shock as they gazed into the distance. Yi Qinghan used the human emperor's aura to scan the forbidden land. He was shocked by the vastness and magnificence of the forbidden land. No wonder the human race was so weak. The dead spirits were too terrifying. Every one of them was at the quasi-emperor level, and there were even great emperors in the depths. However, they were still too old to display their peak strength. They could only rely on this eternal forbidden land to struggle at death's door. It's the human emperor's sword. Guardian's human emperor's sword. I didn't expect it to awaken. Finally, a great emperor-level existence had awakened. He stepped out from the depths, and his emperor's aura was vast and mighty. The dead spirits did not dare to raise their heads and all knelt down. Yi Qinghan did not dare to make the slightest movement. Even if he attached a strand of his consciousness to the human emperor's sword, the great emperor would be able to track his origin and directly destroy his body. Even if he crossed millions of miles of mountains and rivers, he would not be able to stop the great emperor's footsteps. Guardian, these years, the forbidden land and the human race have not interfered with each other. What are you doing in the forbidden land? The great emperor asked coldly. The human emperor's aura did not stop. It was like a soulless creature that continued to wander into the depths. Countless sacred medicines shone with golden light, exuding holy medicinal properties. Any one of them could make a great emperor fight to the death. Di Shang's life could be saved by hundreds of years. Unfortunately, this place had its own laws. The dead spirits could not break the restrictions. If these sacred medicines were allowed to grow, sooner or later, a great emperor would be born here. Moreover, it would be a sacred medicine great emperor. The great emperor felt that the human emperor's sword's aura was not hostile. It only passed by the forbidden land and did not stop it. It only watched as it left. Yi Qinghan exhaled a mouthful of turbid air as he gazed at the boundless forbidden land. He was both anxious and excited. Only the great emperors and renhuangs could leave after entering this place. He never thought that he would be able to enter the forbidden land and take a look by borrowing the aura of the renhuang sword. The stream murmured and the green willows were young and tender. They had already been here for tens of thousands of years. They looked like trees that were at most 10 years old, without any traces of time. Time here was too slow, so slow that one couldn't even feel it moving. The rocks were as hard as boundary emperor weapons. There were rubble everywhere, and there were also sword marks. It was obvious that a terrifying battle had taken place here. Yi Qinghan carefully scanned the surroundings with his consciousness and saw a terrifying scene. A corpse was nailed to the mountain rock by a piece of dead wood. The surroundings were stained with blood and sword scars. The corpse was wearing the quasi-emperor robe of the human race and its eyes were ferocious. Its flesh and blood had not withered, as if it had just died yesterday. Only half of the quasi-emperor sword was left in its hand and it was still clenched in its palm. Traitor? Or was it a human expert who charged into the forbidden area and was killed by the undead spirits? Yi Qinghan could not tell. There was no disgust, but there was a trace of respect. No matter what, such an expert was unwilling to compromise even to the death. It could be seen how firm his Tao heart was. The aura of the human emperor's sword suddenly stopped. It stared at a majestic iron mountain, emitting a terrifying pressure from its depths. It was as if an ancient giant beast was hiding there and could come out at any time to destroy everything. Boom! Another powerful undead spirit revived right below the iron mountain. It was an emperor-level undead spirit. Once it rushed out of the forbidden land, it could definitely destroy the endless universe. At this moment, it looked coldly at the aura of the human emperor's sword and locked onto Yi Qinghan's consciousness with its consciousness. Yi Qinghan was shocked and his hair stood on end. His main body, which was thousands of miles away, broke out in cold sweat. A sigh shook the heavens and the earth. The flow of time sped up a lot. A terrifying aura rushed into the clouds, shattering the void and reviving from a mountain. This aura suppressed the countless undead spirits in the surroundings, not daring to raise their heads. Yi Qinghan was shocked. This aura was too familiar. It was 50% similar to Di Shang's aura. However, this aura was stronger and denser. A true great emperor's aura enveloped the aura of the human emperor's sword and Yi Qinghan's consciousness, knocking away the undead spirit's consciousness. Yi Qinghan's main body trembled, feeling as if he had just escaped death. A traitor of the human race. A traitor of the ancient killing god. It was a great emperor, the 9-star ancient killing god. The undead spirit's words were true. There was a 9-star ancient killing god here. Yi Qinghan was shocked and felt that it was somewhat inconceivable. The 9-star ancient killing god had actually defected. This was simply a disgrace to the ancient killing god. How is this possible? There are only so many great emperors of the human race. Which one is this great emperor of the ancient killing god? Boom! The mountain cracked, and the seal was gone. A ray of divine light flashed as the great emperor stepped out. The great emperor's robe danced in the wind, shattering the laws. Yi Qinghan's consciousness looked at the great emperor in front of him and was stunned by the words embroidered on his robe. 9-star killing robe. Killing god Fu Su. It's actually great emperor Fu Su. This, Yi Qinghan felt as if a bottle of mixed feelings had been knocked over. It was recorded in the Divine Martial Imperial Codex that great emperor Fu Su had fought his entire life and was invincible. He had never lost a single battle in his life. He had slaughtered thousands of races to submit to him, and the Forbidden Grounds wailed in agony. In the end, he had reached the end of his life and was unwilling to continue living. He had forcefully slaughtered his way into the depths of the Forbidden Grounds and unleashed his peak combat strength. He had shattered the Forbidden Grounds into pieces. Retreat. Great Emperor Fu Su's voice was hoarse and filled with vicissitudes of life. His eyes were filled with disdain. He was still the same as the great emperor of the past, his killing intent undiminished. Why have you defected? A horrifying voice came from the endless universe. It traveled through time and arrived at the Forbidden Grounds. The voice was majestic and filled with disbelief. This was the first time the human sovereign's sword had spoken. Obviously, it didn't believe that great Emperor Fu Su had defected. Because great Emperor Fu Su had once wielded the human sovereign's sword, he entered the Forbidden Grounds alone and didn't bring the human sovereign's sword with him. Therefore, the human sovereign's sword didn't know that great Emperor Fu Su had traveled through tens of thousands of years and was still alive in the Forbidden Grounds. What do you mean by defecting? I know that even though I have lived in the Forbidden Grounds for tens of thousands of years, I have never had a single drop of human blood on me. I just want to use this place to comprehend immortality. Great Emperor Fu Su explained in a low voice. He didn't want the human sovereign's sword to misunderstand. Sigh, we are all stubborn people. The 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors of the ancients have all left the Tao. They didn't have any lingering thoughts in the mortal world. Immortality is too far away. One day, you will regret staying in the forbidden grounds. This place is like a poison that you can't quit and can't leave. In the end, you will have no choice but to kill the humans you once protected and steal their lives. The human sovereign's sword sighed and shook its head with a bitter smile. You don't have to worry about this. I can definitely guarantee it. Great Emperor Fu Su shook his head and said resolutely. Please remember the oath you once made to the ancient killing god and the words you said to the common people. The human sovereign's sword warned. If the mountains and rivers are no longer here, what use is my body? The majestic voice moved the blood of the dead spirits and suppressed them, causing them to kneel down. Great Emperor Fu Su was still unyielding. Even though he had been in the forbidden grounds for tens of thousands of years, he didn't change his mind. His Tao heart was firm to the extreme. Back then, there were also boundary emperors who entered the forbidden grounds, hoping to use this place to comprehend the Tao and prove their Tao to defy the heavens. They wanted to be crowned as emperors in the endless universe and help the human race. Unfortunately, they couldn't resist the temptation of immortality and killed the humans to steal their lives. Yi Qinghan's nose turned sour. A great emperor was still a great emperor after all. Incomparable. You can leave now. Don't go too deep. Great Emperor Fu Su's majesty was overwhelming and his will was irrefutable. The human sovereign's sword hesitated and chose to leave. Kid, I'll give you a sentence. Immortality isn't unattainable. If I'm useless and can't achieve immortality, please help me fulfill my last wish. Great Emperor Fu Su traced back to his origin and a voice exploded in Yi Qinghan's consciousness. This forbidden grounds represents an unlimited path to immortality. That's because the law of time can't descend. Only a strand of the law can break through the restriction. If you can fully comprehend the law of time or cultivate your body to the point where it can block the law of time, you can achieve immortality. Yi Qinghan's body shook. Great Emperor Fu Su had cultivated for tens of thousands of years in the forbidden grounds and concluded with this sentence. It was easy to say but hard to do. Otherwise, Great Emperor Fu Su wouldn't have continued to stay in the forbidden grounds. Thank you, Great Emperor. Yi Qinghan muttered to himself as he raised his head and looked at the distant horizon. The Golden Era. Is another great emperor about to be born? If only. Great Emperor Fu Su sighed. Great Emperor Fu Su sighed and looked forward to the birth of a new great emperor. Even if he couldn't control his own heart, he would be killed by the new great emperor. He wouldn't slaughter the humans he had protected for his entire life. The humans were shocked by Great Emperor Fu Su's divine sense. A great emperor of the human race was still alive and in the forbidden grounds. Their faces turned ashen. Whether it was the humans or the myriad races, there was no joy. There was only despair and helplessness. A great emperor-level traitor, even if he didn't appear now, would appear in the future. Once he appeared, it would be an era of mourning. Unless a new great emperor was born, no one would be able to save the countless lives. The human sovereign's sword returned to its body and fell into a deep sleep again. Yi Qinghan woke up indifferently. Looking at the despairing faces of the humans and the myriad races, he couldn't help but laugh bitterly. He secretly mocked himself, I'm really a jinx. Wherever I go, I attract a terrifying existence. Yi Qinghan's fingertips trembled and the human sovereign's sword returned to his sea of consciousness. It transformed into the heavy berserk saber. He coldly looked at the remaining 9 Saint Monarch experts and said, I had no choice but to use the human sovereign's sword. If anyone dares to use the divine martial Tao weapon again, don't blame me for being impolite. Qin Hangyan's Wuxian's expressions were ugly. They didn't think that Emperor Shang would give the human sovereign's sword to Yi Qinghan. If it was lost or stolen, it would be a great loss to the human race. Qin Han, where is Daoist Emperor Shang? Why is the human sovereign's sword in your hands? Qin Heng's voice was filled with dissatisfaction. Giving the human sovereign's sword to a junior was simply not taking the ancient killing god seriously. If it was given to Emperor Yi, perhaps he wouldn't be able to say anything. After all, Emperor Yi had the supreme physique of the human sovereign. But Yi Qin Han, even if his physique wasn't bad, he wasn't qualified to hold the human sovereign's sword. Yi Qin Han bitterly smiled. He knew that there would be problems with the human sovereign's sword in his hands. As soon as he took it out, the two quasi-emperors of the ancient killing god questioned him. Chapter 254. The group of quasi-emperors frowned as they looked at Yi Qin Han, especially the human experts and the Tao realm quasi-emperors of the 9 holy lands. They all felt that Di Shang's decision wasn't very wise, especially the great Buddha temple's quasi-emperors. They were looking for a chance to take back the great Buddha temple's supreme treasure, the 10,000 Buddha pagoda. If the human emperor's sword was in Yi Qin Han's hands, it would be impossible to take back the 10,000 Buddha pagoda. Yi Qin Han bowed slightly and said, Masters, Master Di has already gone into seclusion and asked me to hold the human emperor's sword. He also said that if anyone is dissatisfied, they can let the human emperor's sword choose freely. Of course, the human emperor's sword had the power to choose freely. Its choice was the final decision. No one dared to say anything. Even if a new great emperor appeared, they couldn't influence the choice of the human emperor's sword. Yi Qin Han's fingers trembled. He held the human emperor's sword with both hands and looked at Qin Hanyin's Wuxian. Besides these two, the others weren't from the ancient massacre god and didn't have the qualifications to compete. The human emperor's sword couldn't be given to them either. Qin Hanyin's Wuxian's eyes flashed. They definitely wanted the human emperor's sword. Having the human emperor's sword meant that they had the will of the human emperor. Once the human emperor's sword appeared, even the ancient massacre god's sword would have to listen to it. The human emperor's sword seemed to be silent as it lay quietly in Yi Qin Han's hands. Anyone could take it. Sui Xian was anxious. He stepped forward and emitted strands of great emperor's might, hoping that the human emperor's sword would recognize him. He reached out to grab the sword, but the moment he touched the hilt, the human emperor's sword suddenly exploded. An unparalleled might shot out and pushed Sui Xian back several hundred meters. Peng peng peng, Sui Xian's face was pale as if he had been attacked by a great emperor. His right hand exploded and his great emperor's blood dyed the sky. He retreated step by step into the crowd, scaring them into fleeing. Qin Heng's expression changed and he was a bit nervous. He stepped forward and respectfully said, Lord Protector, you are far too important to the human race and the ancient slaughter god. It is not appropriate for a junior like Qin Han to hold you. I beg you to let me hold you. I will do my best for the human race, even if I die. The human sovereign sword did not move at all, which put the human race quasi-emperors in a difficult position. Qin Heng sighed. At this moment, he wanted to take the human sovereign sword from Yi Qin Han's hands partly because of his own selfishness. But, most of it was for the sake of the human race and the ancient massacre god. In his eyes, Yi Qin Han wasn't worthy of wielding the human sovereign sword. Letting Si Wuxia or Emperor Yi wield it was the best choice. At the very least, it should be Celestial Palace God. If you think I'm not worthy, then you should at least let Si Wuxia or Emperor Yi, who have the physique of the human emperor, take over. I beg you, sir, for the sake of the human race, please move your golden body. Qin Heng slowly knelt down and said in a low voice. Yi Qin Han smiled faintly. If the Renhuang sword really left, it meant that it was not meant to be with him. If it was lodging in the consciousness of Emperor Yi or Si Wuxia, he would not be jealous. The human sovereign's sword moved slightly, and a wisp of aura swept towards Emperor Yi and Si Wuxia. It did not leave, but returned to the consciousness of its own accord. It was as if it had taken root and nailed itself above the sea of bitterness. Everyone gasped. They did not understand why the human sovereign's sword gave up lodging in the consciousness of the human emperor physique and chose to stay in Yi Qinghan's consciousness. In terms of physique, the human emperor physique could instantly defeat Yi Qinghan by 100,000 times. In terms of combat power, Si Wuxia and Emperor Ye's combat power was absolutely unparalleled. The choice of the human sovereign's sword was simply incomprehensible. I believe that master is worthy of wielding the human sovereign's sword. Si Wuxia stepped forward forcefully, his golden blood erupting. He glanced at the quasi-emperors and said coldly, "I believe it too. The human sovereign's sword and senior emperor Shang have both chosen master. I hope that everyone will not push it too far." Emperor Yi stepped forward and pulled Yi Qinghan back. Two human emperor physiques supporting Yi Qinghan was the greatest recognition. Qingheng stood up and said sadly, "Qinghan, it's not that I don't believe you, but your physique is no better than the human emperor physique. However, brother Emperor Shang, the two human emperor physiques, and the human sovereign's sword have all chosen you. You must protect the human sovereign's sword well." "That's right. The human sovereign's sword is the guardian of the ancient killing god. It has been passed down for several eras and is still protecting the human race. Don't tarnish the human sovereign's sword." Sui Xian said in a low voice. "As long as I live, the sword lives. If the sword dies, I die." Yi Qinghan was not disgusted. Instead, he bowed and promised. "Good. I believe that since brother Emperor Shang has chosen Qinghan, we should also believe in him." Xia Qintian said in a low voice. He was extremely optimistic about Yi Qinghan. Xia Qintian's approval led to the approval of the other Dao realm quasi-emperors from the 9 holy lands. The quasi-emperor from the Great Golden Buddha Temple twitched his mouth. He was in no position to say anything. The matter of the human sovereign's sword came to an end. Yi Qinghan turned around and looked at the 9 sage royal tribe experts. He then looked at the miserable state of the insane sect disciples. He clenched his fists and said coldly, "As the sect leader of the insane sect, I will not allow anyone to humiliate me. You are great martial venerables, and some of you are even at the beginner stage of the immortal gate. You suppressed your cultivation level and chased after a 10-year-old child. So you are the sect leader of the insane sect. A high-level Dao master who is not even a great martial venerable. How dare you lead a group of children to be so arrogant? You are courting death." Qilin Tiger sneered. "Humph, it doesn't matter if I am a great martial venerable or not. I have cultivated for 10 years to reach this level. In 100 years at most, I will kill you like a dog." Yi Qinghan snorted coldly. "Ha ha ha, people are not afraid of being stupid, but they are afraid of being brainless. So what if I give you 100 years? I can still suppress you with one hand. But now, I want to see how you are going to save face for your disciples. 1 against 9. If you dare to use the human sovereign's sword or the divine martial weapon, I will kill you now. Don't think that the human sovereign's sword can protect you." Qilin Tiger sneered and signaled the 9 sage royal tribe experts to join forces and completely suppress Yi Qinghan. Deity of the heavenly palace frowned and said coldly, 1 against 9. It is not fair. Moreover, Yi Qinghan is only at the peak of the Dao master level. He is not even a great martial venerable, there is nothing unfair about it. Didn't he just say that he would suppress me after 100 years? Even if I suppress my cultivation level to the peak of the Dao master level, you can send out any great martial venerable from the human clan. I will kill 100 of you. If he wants to defeat me, he will have to fight 1 against 9 first." Qilin Tiger sneered. The faces of the human clan experts darkened. This was no longer a simple provocation. 1 against 100, and he even chose the elites of the human clan as he pleased. He was looking down on the human clan. Yi Qinghan sneered and pulled out his violent saber. He said calmly, 1 against 9, no problem. Come at me together. I will take it. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air and looked at Yi Qinghan in shock. Regardless of whether Yi Qinghan won or lost, his boldness was something to admire. Yi Qinghan. If you can win, I am willing to be your follower and a member of the crazy sect. I will help you protect the crazy sect. At this time, a figure stepped out of the crowd. He was very young, with long hair fluttering in the wind. His temperament was outstanding, and he was about 1.8 meters tall. His face was as handsome as jade, and his chiseled face was like the work of God. He looked like a reserve top master. Huang Tian. He is at the imperial prince level. Although he is not a disciple of the Tao realm, his combat strength is not inferior to the imperial prince or the holy sun. 3 years ago, Lin Aoqiong fought him and he was not defeated after more than 3,000 moves. In the end, he was exhausted. He has been in the eternal battlefield alone. I heard that he had obtained the inheritance of a secret treasure. That was how he rose to power and became an imperial prince. I did not expect that he would have to protect the crazy sect. The crowd discussed. Even Lin Aoqiong could not help but look at Huang Tian. After 3 years, he realized that Huang Tian had become much stronger and more profound. He was probably almost on the same level as the imperial prince. Brother Yi, your brother supports you. Kill these little bastards. They're just a bunch of trash. Kill them all. Dugu Badian said in a domineering manner. He didn't even put the 9 holy royal clans in his eyes. The experts of the 9 great holy royal families were furious. They released their auras and were about to attack. The boundary emperors did not say anything. They wanted to see how strong the person chosen by the emperor's sword was. I will say this first. Once the battle starts, it will not end until one of us dies. No matter who wins or loses, if anyone dares to interfere, don't blame me for using the extreme Tao Emperor weapon. The Qilin Tiger's royal aura exploded. Even the boundary emperors had to give him face. Okay. Tiangong Shen looked at Yi Qinghan and felt that he would not do anything rash. Since he had agreed, he was confident that he would win. Back off. After this battle, the human race and the myriad races will stop fighting. The younger generation will start the king-conferring battle. The real king-conferring experts. The top 1,000 will be recognized as the king of the endless universe. They will be able to enter the Tao realm's sacred land of the human race and the myriad races to cultivate for a year to 100 years. The top 10 in the same realm will receive the blood essence of the royal family. The top expert will receive a drop of blood essence of the dragon heart. The boundary emperor of the Azure Dragon race announced the start of the king-conferring battle. He looked at the experts coldly. The Qilin Tiger did not dare to say anything. Everyone was overjoyed, especially the emperor-level existences. The top 10 would be monopolized by them. The blood essence of the royal family's bloodline was a supreme treasure. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed. The blood essence of the royal family and the blood essence of the dragon heart were what he lacked the most. They could be used to temper his physical body and lay an important foundation for the creation of the 9 revolutions chaotic Tao body in the future. Roar! The heavy berserk saber exploded with a violent aura that was incomparably domineering. Yi Qinghan gripped his saber tightly and stepped forward, looking coldly at the 9 Saint Royal Family experts. The 9 Saint Royal Family experts spread out and surrounded Yi Qinghan. Their auras were like rainbows, and their killing intent was radiating in all directions. They all took out the immortal sect Tao weapons, which shone with divine light. Yi Qinghan was indifferent. His eyes emitted a terrifying will. He became one with his saber, and his battle-intent soared. Zhang Jiyi's eyes flashed. He did not expect Yi Qinghan to be able to explode with such a powerful battle intent. He was not inferior to some of the Zhan family's direct disciples. He nodded with satisfaction. Hiss, 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 the saber light of the heavy berserk saber tore through the void. Yi Qinghan borrowed the momentum of heaven and earth, and his aura exploded. It was as if he was indomitable, and he suppressed the 9 Saint Royal family experts. Kill! With an angry roar, the 9 Saint Royal family experts attacked together. True Yuan poured out, and the saber light tore through the void, drowning Yi Qinghan's position. Boom! The earth cracked, and sand flew everywhere. Sand covered the sky and covered the sun. Yi Qinghan's figure disappeared from everyone's sight. The 10,000 Saint Royal family experts were overjoyed. They thought that Yi Qinghan had been killed in an instant, and they laughed mockingly. The 9 berserk moves combine, berserk heaven-slaying move. With an angry roar, the mountains and rivers collapsed. Countless terrifying saber lights cut through the clouds and pierced through the void. In the blink of an eye, they merged into one, and a terrifying saber light appeared in the void. It was as if it had come from the primordial times, and it wanted to destroy the heavens. Chapter 255. The saber slashed through the air, sweeping away thousands of soldiers. The saber light pierced through the shackles of the Yorwilds. Roar! Boom! Crack! A series of cracking sounds rang out as the 9 precious treasures were destroyed. There was no way to fight back. The berserk battle will swept through the 9 experts, causing them to bleed and tumble through the air. Within the same level, who could possibly contend with the berserk battle will? The Tiger Qilan's face sank. He had never imagined that Yi Qinghan's battle prowess would reach such a level. His power was unparalleled, and the combined attack of the 9 experts hadn't even been able to injure him. Boom! The 9 experts were battered and exhausted, their bodies bathed in blood as they tumbled through the air several hundred meters away. They stared in shock at Yi Qinghan, who looked like a god of war descending from the heavens. Brandishing the berserk battle will, he stomped down on one of the experts. Ignorant brat, you can't even stand up to a single blow. Yi Qinghan pointed his saber at his opponent, who didn't dare to fight back. A beam of saber light shot out, piercing into the sage monarch's body. Not even the sage monarch's fleshly body could block Yi Qinghan's attack. Pop! One of the sage monarch experts coughed up blood as he tumbled through the air. Die! Yi Qinghan's lips curled into a smile. His voice was filled with determination, and he couldn't be refuted. Brandishing the berserk battle will, Yi Qinghan slashed through the air, using the magical laws of space to slash at his opponent's throat. The berserk battle will was infused with the elemental profundities of darkness, piercing through his opponent's limbs and bones. The remaining 8 sage monarchs stared at Yi Qinghan in shock and disbelief. Yi Qinghan's spatial magical laws were just too strong. He could appear and disappear like a ghost. Gather! Attack together! The sage monarch didn't dare to think too much about it, so he ordered the other experts to gather around him. Boom! The experts from all 8 directions rushed towards the Saint Monkey King. They wanted to rely on the combined might of the 8 great experts. They didn't hope to kill Yi Qinghan, but they wanted to defend. Yi Qinghan let out a muffled snort as he slashed out with his saber. Saber light flooded the space around him, and in the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of one of the Saint Monarch race experts. It was as if the Saint Monarch race expert had been slashed in half, and the terrifying saber light contained the elemental profundities of darkness and the laws of gravity. In the blink of an eye, the Saint Monarch race expert's body was cut in half, and the terrifying saber light contained the elemental profundities of darkness and the laws of gravity. Not even his bones remained. Heavy frenzy attack. 10,000 Daos are under a single blade, and it can break 10,000 techniques. Die. Ah! An expert who only wanted to rush behind the Monkey King had his back facing Yi Qinghan and was sliced open by a single slash. A drop of essence blood tried to form a Tao body but was instantly destroyed by the dark elemental quintessence. Whoosh! Space shattered as Yi Qinghan killed 2 experts in a row. He raised his saber and used stellar transposition to block the path of another expert. Their eyes met, and the Saint Monarch race expert was terrified. You dare to kill me? The true king of my race will grind your bones to dust. The Saint Monarch race expert didn't even have the courage to fight back. His legs trembled as he tried to form a new Tao soldier. Yi Qinghan coldly said. He raised his saber and slashed out, piercing through space and obliterating his opponent. Then I'll wait for the true king of your race. Yi Qinghan didn't want to leave them alive. He wasn't afraid of their revenge. Actually, it didn't matter if they were afraid or not. After today, the true king of the Saint Monarch race would target the insane sect and Yi Qinghan. Even if they weren't killed, the outcome wouldn't change. In the blink of an eye, only 6 of the 9 experts were left. They stood back to back, blood dripping from their wounds, their faces filled with terror. The experts of the myriad races had ugly expressions. The Saint Monarch race expert had been defeated, and in such a miserable manner. Other than the king of the Saint Monarch race, who else would dare to say they could defeat Yi Qinghan? The Qilin tiger's eyes burned like the sun as his killing intent surged. This brat is going to be a disaster one day. I'm going to end him before that happens. With that, the Qilin tiger looked for an opportunity to strike. The sage monkey king gripped his golden staff and glared at Yi Qinghan. Brat, you've angered the Saint Monarch race. You won't have a good end. The young king of my race has been sealed for 10,000 years, and he's about to awaken. Even the holy children and imperial princes of your human race will have to kneel before him. Humph, the 6 of you should be working together to kill me. You can't scare me to death just by scaring me, Yi Qinghan said disdainfully. His aura surged as he walked towards them with his blade raised. Tap tap tap. Tap tap tap. Yi Qinghan's footsteps felt like they were stepping on everyone's hearts, as if they were going to crush them. The sage monkey king and the other experts' faces were ashen as they retreated. Their hearts were about to explode from the pressure of Yi Qinghan's aura. Their Tao hearts were about to be shattered, let alone resisting. Victory for the human race. Long live the Guangzong. Victory for the human race. Long live the Guangzong. See Wuxia's bloodline awakened, and he roared, causing the blood energy of the heroes to tremble. Victory for the human race. Long live the Guangzong. The auras of millions of humans burst out in unison. Their auras soared into the sky. Even if the human race was weak, they could only rely on a few elites to struggle at death's door. However, their ancestors had said that millions of humans were all soldiers. Even if they were going to die, they would be drowned by the aura waves. They were not willing to step back and watch. Yi Qinghan borrowed the power of the human race, and he held the saber with both hands, becoming one with the saber. He stood outside the buried monarch city, and divine light rippled, as if he could slash down at any time. Boom! The sage monkey king and the other experts' faces were as pale as paper, and they knelt down in fear from Yi Qinghan's aura. It was as if they were facing the king of their race, and they had no intention of resisting. The experts of the sage monarch race did not dare to raise their heads and look into Yi Qinghan's eyes, waiting for the judgment of fate. The Qilin tiger sneered, and he was both angry and shocked. He did not expect Yi Qinghan's battle strength to be on par with the imperial prince. Today's battle would establish a firm foundation for his Tao heart, and he would be truly invincible among his peers. Hee, kill them, a bunch of trash. The Qilin tiger sneered and mocked. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed, and he thought to himself, if I kill them now, they will definitely be hated by the other races, and it will be difficult for me to advance in the future. The quasi-emperors of the other races looked at Yi Qinghan's back with indifference, and they were also very hesitant. They wanted Yi Qinghan to kill them, but they also did not want to. After all, the young generation of the sage monarch race kneeling to the human race was a disgrace to the other races. However, killing these disgraces should be done by the experts of their race, and not by Yi Qinghan. Xia Qintian's fingers trembled, and he wanted to warn Yi Qinghan, but he did not say anything. He secretly said, "Young man, it's up to you to make your own choice, and whether or not you are smart enough." The other quasi-emperors did not say anything, and they all wanted to see what Yi Qinghan would choose. Yi Qinghan smiled indifferently, and with a wave of his finger, he returned to his sea of consciousness. However, he was still as domineering as a blade, and his aura could seize the heavens. "I am the sect master of the arrogant sect. Today's matter was purely self-defense, and I am seeking justice for the younger generation. If any of the seniors are dissatisfied, they can come to me. If anyone dares to attack the children of my sect, don't blame me for using the sword of the human sovereign to slaughter your entire race without mercy." Yi Qinghan's voice was filled with killing intent and supreme will. His eyes were like scorching suns, and they swept across the crowd. Finally, he fixed his gaze on the Qilin tiger, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly as he clenched his fists. "I am not a bloodthirsty person, so don't force me to go crazy. Otherwise, what does it matter if you are an imperial sacred ground? I dare to take the sealed dead spirit and perish together with you." Yi Qinghan warned the Qilin tiger, warning him not to assassinate the young disciples of the arrogant sect. The Qilin tiger's mouth twitched, and his body trembled with anger. Yi Qinghan was too terrifying, too crazy, and completely unafraid of death. If he dared to injure the Qilin tiger's reverse scale, he would really take the sealed dead spirit and rush into the Qilin tiger's clan to slaughter them. "Humph, I don't care about assassinating a group of juniors, but you, I will definitely kill you within 100 years. The Qilin tiger said coldly. "Then let's wait and see. Maybe in 100 years, we can fight at the end of the coronation battle." Yi Qinghan was extremely arrogant, and he wanted to fight for the coronation battle, enter the top 10, and compete for the imperial blood essence. "You enter the immortal gate first, no one below the great revered martial artist can enter the top 10. The Qilin tiger sneered coldly. Yi Qinghan was silent for a moment. This sentence was true, he might not even be able to enter the top 1,000. If he wanted to enter the top 100, he had to enter the immortal gate, and to enter the top 10, he had to be at the middle stage of the immortal gate. "As you wish." Yi Qinghan replied coldly. The quasi-emperor was very satisfied with Yi Qinghan's performance. Not only was he strong, but he was also smart. When he was strong, he was not weaker than the human race, and when he retreated, he did not completely enrage the 10,000 races. The quasi-emperor of the Azure Dragon race nodded slightly. He was very satisfied that Yi Qinghan did not kill the experts of the 6 great holy royal race. In that case, everyone will prepare for a month. During this month, we will stop fighting, and no killing is allowed. If there is hatred, wait until the king-conferring battle. In this battle, no matter if it is the crown prince or others, life or death will not matter. Qin Heng said in a deep voice. If anyone dares to fight, the ancient massacre god will send out elites to kill them. No one dared to underestimate the might of the ancient massacre god. The heavenly palace gods were not ordinary, and they were all bitterly cultivating in the forbidden land. Once they came out, they would be absolutely terrifying. That's right, the Azure Dragon race will also send out elites to patrol the imperial domain. You better not provoke the ancient massacre god and my Azure Dragon race. The Azure Dragon Quasi-Emperor warned in a deep voice. Since the king-conferring battle has started, is it time to announce the start of the golden era of the endless universe? All the elites of the human race will be recalled, and the disciples of the Tao realm of the Holy Land, the royal race, and the holy royal race will also be revived. Zhang Yunxiao asked excitedly. Of course. Otherwise, with just these disciples who have come out, most of them are not qualified to enter the top 1,000, not even 10,000. The Azure Dragon Quasi-Emperor did not care about these young people who had already come out. At least, there were only 10 of them who could enter his eyes. Compared to those hidden elites, these people were just trash. Everyone's expression changed slightly. The true elites of the endless universe would be revived, and the competition would instantly increase by 10,000 times. If they were not careful, they would be buried in this king-conferring battle. The true human kings would step on the corpses to reach the peak and achieve supreme glory. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath. The true golden age had begun. In a month's time, the disciples of the crazy sect were too young. There were not many who could really fight. It all depended on the two Renhuang physiques. As for the others, it was all up to fate. Chapter 256. Outside buried Emperor City, Yi Qinghan and Huang Tian looked at each other and nodded. They followed Heavenly Palace God and the others to Emperor Abyss City, the territory of the ancient massacre god. Yi Qinghan and more than 10 experts gathered in Hunter's territory. Except for Yi Qinghan, they were all imperial princes and holy princes. Zhang Gu, Heavenly Palace God, Dugu Baitian, Lin Aoqiong, Xia Qiwe, Xia Ziluo, Xiao Yuni, Feng Sha, their auras were soaring, and Muyo Tianqian was among them. Little guy, your battle strength is not bad. You're not inferior to the Zhan family's direct descendants, Zhang Gu said calmly. The Zhan family relied on the battle formula. Their battle intent soared to the heavens, and their aura alone could suppress tens of thousands of enemies. Once they reverted back to their ancestral state, they would be invincible, and could definitely fight with the golden bloodline. Even if they were at the same level, they would not fall behind. The golden bloodline could not suppress battle chi. Therefore, even a direct descendant of the Zhan family had the battle strength of a holy monarch tribe expert. Yi Qinghan smiled faintly. These imperial princes were as arrogant as the heavens. For them to say something like this to him was already a sign of respect. Brother Qinghan, you didn't use your full strength, did you? Heavenly Palace God did not believe that Yi Qinghan had used his full strength. Yi Qinghan nodded. He had to use his full strength to deal with the holy monarch tribe's direct descendants. How could he be compared to the imperial princes? Everyone's eyes flashed. He had defeated 9 holy monarch tribe experts in one move, and he had not used his full strength. Once he did, he would be comparable to the imperial princes even without the human sovereign sword. After a month, the gap between us and those reclusive princes in terms of cultivation realms has widened. We can only make up for it with our secret techniques. Do you all want to go back and cultivate your secret techniques? Yi Qinghan looked at everyone and made a decision in his heart. Dugu Baitian, Huang Tian, and Xiao Yuni were all itinerant cultivators. At most, they belonged to powerful clans. Compared to the Dao realm cultivators from the 9 great holy lands, they were much weaker. If he could recruit them into the insane sect and train them in the killing god's world, they would definitely be able to compete for the top 100 spots. Zhang Gu, Xia Qiwe, and the others shook their heads. They had been cultivating in seclusion in the clan for dozens of years. They had long grasped the secret arts and divine abilities of the clan. Now, they wanted to come out to experience life and death situations to break through. Even if they went back now, they wouldn't be able to solve the problem in a month. Yi Qinghan's fingers trembled. If these Empyreans, saint sons, and saintesses were pulled into the killing god world, the ancient killing god might not agree. After all, it was impossible for the saint sons of the Holy Lands to agree to join the ancient killing god. For the sake of the human race, let's go all out. Yi Qinghan gritted his teeth and decided to bring them along to the god of death's realm. Boom! Just as Yi Qinghan was about to speak, 7 terrifying auras suddenly appeared on the periphery of the hunter's territory. They were incomparably powerful, and their fighting spirit soared to the heavens. Yi Qinghan and the others were startled. These people's fighting spirit was on par with the Empyrean princes. How did so many experts suddenly appear in the human race? Shua! More than 10 figures rushed out of the main hall. When they saw that the newcomers were a group of strangers, they were immediately shocked. However, Yi Qinghan was overjoyed. He laughed excitedly and his figure flashed. He punched Sikong Qingjuan's chest and said happily, "Brother, we haven't seen each other for more than 10 years. Our opportunity is not bad." The three brothers reunited after 10 years. Gu Qingyu also laughed. "Kid, it really is you. You didn't die even after self-detonating. Damn, you created a miracle." Sikong Qingjun laughed loudly. He was especially happy. "Don't worry, I won't die." Yi Qinghan was excited. He turned to look at Rookie and the others. He found that these people's fighting strength was incomparably terrifying. They were definitely comparable to the Empyrean princes. He couldn't help but ask, "Who are these people?" "These are the brothers I made in the eternal battlefield. They are Stallion, Rookie, Divine Whip." Sikong Qingjun introduced them one by one. "Greetings, fellow Taoists." Chao Biang and the others looked at the Empyrean princes and cupped their fists. "I didn't expect so many experts to come out of the eternal battlefield. It seems that we have to go in and take a look." Xia Qiue and the others were very shocked. It was absolutely terrifying for a mortal body to reach this step. Chao Biang and the others didn't have a special constitution or high-grade bloodline. The happiest person was Yi Qinghan. Sikong Qingjun called these people brothers, so they could definitely be trusted. They were the best candidates to join the Kuang sect. There was no need to worry about loyalty. The eternal battlefield is indeed a good place to cultivate people. You can die at any time, but once there is an opportunity, you can't hide even if you want to. Sikong Qingjun said straightforwardly. His eyes flickered. If there was a chance, he would pull all these Empyrean princes in and explore some death zones. He would obtain even more. Let's wait until after the king-conferring battle. We'll go in together. Yi Qinghan nodded. The eternal battlefield was the condensation of the glory of an era. The powerful eternal battlefield was destroyed overnight. Who knew how many treasures were hidden inside? Everyone entered the main hall. Yi Qinghan's aura became serious. He looked at the Empyrean princes and Xia Ziluo and said in a deep voice, "Are you willing to become the ancient massacre god?" Zhang Gu, Xia Qiue, and the others raised their eyebrows. It was impossible for the Empyrean princes and saints of the Tao realm Holy Land to become the ancient massacre god. Hunters could do it. After all, they had the backing of super forces. Unless it was a special time, the ancient massacre god wouldn't want them. The heavenly palace god was stunned. Looking at Yi Qinghan's expression, he guessed what he was going to do. He was shocked and hurriedly said, "Brother Yi, you have to discuss this matter with the two boundary emperors of the ancient massacre god. You can't be stubborn." Yi Qinghan nodded. At this time, with the human sovereign sword, he might be able to forcefully bring these people into the massacre god's realm. However, it would definitely arouse the dissatisfaction of the boundary emperors. Yi Qinghan stared at everyone and said in a low voice, "If you are willing to become the ancient massacre god and swear an oath to become the ancient massacre god, I will bring you into the massacre god's realm. You can cultivate the secret techniques and divine abilities of the massacre god's realm. Although it won't be of much use in a month, mastering a divine ability, even if it's just a small divine ability, will be enough to save your life and kill your opponent at a critical time." Zhang Gu, Xia Qiue, and the others were stunned. Aside from quasi-emperors and their direct disciples, it was impossible for anyone else to enter the ancient killing god's world. Yi Qinghan was holding the human sovereign sword and wanted to bring them in. Just this boldness alone made them admire him. Will the ancient massacre god agree? Xia Qiue frowned. This wasn't a small matter. This is a special time. The glory of the human race depends on our generation. If we keep it to ourselves, it will only cause the human race to fall. I believe in the wisdom and foresight of the two sirs. It's up to you all. Yi Qinghan clenched his fists. If he really couldn't convince them, he would forcefully bring them in. No one could stop his determination to lead the human race to glory. I am willing to join the ancient massacre god and swear an oath to never reveal the ancient massacre god's secret techniques and divine abilities. Zhang Gu replied straightforwardly. Xia Qiue shrugged and looked at Xia Ziluo. She revealed a different kind of smile and said faintly, "Since my brother-in-law invited me, how can I, as his brother-in-law, refuse?" Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes and was speechless. Why wasn't this matter over yet? Humph. Emperor Yi coldly snorted and opened his eyes to glare at Xia Qiue. Xia Ziluo's face turned red and she stomped her feet. She shyly glared at Xia Qiue and said angrily, "Brother, you're still talking about this matter. Father is about to forcefully give an order. Actually, I think this is pretty good. The two of you have excellent physiques, so your nephew will definitely be excellent. Who knows, he might be able to prove his Tao." Xia Qiue teased. "Forget it. Only you, her brother, would treat her like a treasure. My master wouldn't like this kind of spoiled princess." Emperor Yi disdainfully mocked. Xia Ziluo was furious. She was so angry that her chest was trembling. Her jade-like fingers trembled as she pointed at Emperor Yi. She gritted her teeth in hatred. After holding it in for a long time, she finally reprimanded, "Little girl, why are you always going against me? Don't think that I won't dare to beat you just because you have the physique of the human emperor. Come if you have the ability. I'm not afraid of you." Emperor Yi gave tit for tat. His aura exploded as he replied indifferently. Yi Qinghan bitterly smiled. Emperor Yi was cold to everyone, so why did he start a fight with Xia Ziluo? Alright, if there's a chance, you two can compete in the king-conferred battle. Now isn't the time for internal strife. Xia Qiue looked at Emperor Yi with a strange light in her eyes. This little girl's possessiveness was a bit too strong. You two chat first. I'll go and discuss with the two lords. Yi Qinghan dragged Emperor Yi out of the palace. Outside the palace, Emperor Yi refused to leave. He wanted the enlightenment divine lotus. He opened his deep eyes and glared at Yi Qinghan. "Master, are you going to marry that spoiled princess?" Yi Qinghan exploded. Looking at Emperor Ye's attitude, he was clearly serious. She had never treated him with such an expression and attitude. How could that be? I don't have a life of riches and honor, and I don't want to marry a spoiled princess. Yi Qinghan solemnly promised. Then why didn't you reject her in the palace? That spoiled princess is clearly moved. Emperor Yi was still glaring at Yi Qinghan. His eyes were clear, without a trace of distracting thoughts. No one dared to look directly at him. Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly and reached out to grab Emperor Yi. This little girl had suffered too much. He was her only family, and she was afraid that others would take him away. With such an attitude, it was clear that she wanted him to have more love, and she didn't want Yi Qinghan to be taken away by others. No wonder she was so hostile when she saw Xia Ziluo. Emperor Yi didn't appreciate it and took a step back. His eyes were filled with unwillingness and sadness. His eyes were red as he looked directly at Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan's heart softened. He said in a low voice, "I promise that I won't marry that spoiled princess." Is that enough? Then go to the palace and make it clear to Xia Ziluo and Xia Qintian of the Heavenly Dragon Sacred Dynasty. Tell them not to think too much. Emperor Yi was still worried. He glared at Yi Qinghan and said. Tisk, tsk, tsk. If you don't let Master marry and have children, are you going to marry him? Or are you going to let him be a bachelor for the rest of his life? The parrot jumped out and looked at Emperor Yi with a lustful expression. Slap! Emperor Yi raised his hand and slapped the parrot, sending it flying more than 10 meters. It rolled many times in a sorry state. If you dare to talk so much, I'll teach you a lesson. Emperor Yi said angrily. Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly. This girl was really angry today. Chapter 257. The parrot was a little dazed by this blow, and its eyes were seeing stars. It staggered to its feet and glared at Emperor Yi as it roared, "You actually dared to hit this divine bird. This is the first time I've been hit. So what if I hit you? So what if I hit you? Do you have the ability to hit me back? I'm in a bad mood right now." Emperor Ye's young and pure face revealed an angry expression. She clenched her small pink fists and questioned repeatedly. You. I would have taught you a lesson a long time ago if it weren't for the fact that I can't beat you. The parrot's imposing manner weakened as it replied timidly. Is that so? So, you want to hit me? Emperor Yi glared at the parrot and said. The parrot retreated several steps. It was frightened by Emperor Ye's imposing manner. Then, it swore solemnly, "No. Absolutely not. You're my most respected and beloved little master. You're pure, cute, beautiful, and smart. I can't wait to love you. How could I bear to hit you?" Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes. This parrot was extremely cheap. After repeatedly swearing and begging for mercy, Emperor Yi was finally appeased. Only then did Emperor Ye's complexion turn for the better. He also requested that the next time the Xia clan brought up this matter, Yi Qinghan would righteously refuse. Yi Qinghan agreed. Emperor Yi smiled through his tears. The parrot curled its lips and muttered, "A little girl will always be a little girl. She doesn't understand the meaning of asterisk 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 asterisk." Emperor Yi was in a good mood. He didn't argue with the parrot and let it escape. In the ancient massacre god palace, the two quasi-emperors were discussing the matter of the emperor's sword. Yi Qinghan stepped in with Emperor Yi. The palace was dazzling with golden light. It was extremely luxurious. The floor was covered with top-grade spirit crystals. The spiritual energy was oppressive. "Qinghan, why are you here?" Shuxian and Qin Heng frowned and asked. Yi Qinghan bowed and said, "Greetings, your excellencies. I came here to ask about Chen Shui, and also to discuss an important matter with your excellencies." Shuxian and Qin Heng saw that Yi Qinghan was not arrogant because of the human sovereign sword. Instead, he was respectful to them. They could not help but nod in satisfaction. "Chen Shui has been taken in as my last disciple. She's currently in seclusion. She should appear during the bestowed king battle." "You don't have to worry," Shuxian said in a low voice. "What do you want to discuss with us? You have the human sovereign sword. You can make decisions on small matters." Qin Heng looked straight at Yi Qinghan. Although he said this, he did not think this way. This matter is not a small matter. I don't dare to make decisions on my own. You two are the top existences of the human race. You have made an indelible contribution to the glory of the human race. Your names will go down in history. I believe that your excellencies are far-sighted. You will definitely make the right decision and point out a bright path for the younger generation. Yi Qinghan had not said anything yet, but he had already put on a high hat. He wished he could say the best words, but that would be too fake. Shuxian and Qin Heng blushed. They were very happy. Yi Qinghan had recognized and respected them. This was the happiest thing for them. This is all for the glory of the human race. The purpose of the ancient god of massacre was to protect the human race. We are the guardians of the ancient god of massacre. This is what we should do. Compared to our ancestors, our performance is nothing. Qin Heng said in a low voice. That's right, this is nothing. This is what we should do. The past powerhouses of the ancient god of massacre have all sacrificed their lives for the human race. Yet, we are still struggling at death's door. This is shameful. Sui Xian's face was bright red. He restrained his emotions and excitedly said. There is no need to be modest. Although I come from a small border region, I know of the ancient god of massacre's fame. Justice is in the hearts of the people. The two of you will definitely be remembered by the human race and will be immortalized for eternity. Yi Qinghan respectfully said. Although his words were half true and half false, Yi Qinghan's respect was not fake. First, tell us what you came here for. If we can agree, then brothers Hua and I will not make things difficult for you. Qin Heng smiled. Yi Qinghan thought for a moment and then said, there is no hurry. First, I will tell the two of you something. It might affect the direction of your judgment. What is it? Sui Xian frowned and asked. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath, cupped his fists, and said, Today, I entered the forbidden area with a wisp of guardian sword's aura and saw a great emperor of the human race. He is still alive. Moreover, he is the 9-star god of massacre of the ancient god of massacre. Boom! Sui Xian and Qin Heng's aura erupted. Their clothes fluttered and their eyes were as bright as the sun. They stood up and stared at Yi Qinghan. What did you say? The 9-star god of massacre of the ancient god of massacre has defected? Sui Xian and Qin Heng's eyes were filled with disbelief as they coldly shouted. Yes. As for which great emperor it is not convenient for me to say because that supreme existence has not defected. He has not been stained with the blood of the human race. Moreover, he has already touched the threshold of immortality. However, no one has been born in the immortal realm for countless eras. Even the human sovereign cannot achieve this. I am afraid that in order to achieve immortality, he will lose his mind and slaughter the human race. At that time, even if a new great emperor is born, it will only be a situation where both sides will suffer losses. Yi Qinghan helplessly said his guess. That's impossible. How could the 9-star god of massacre of the ancient god of massacre have defected? Sui Xian and Qin Heng roared. Their palms had shattered the top-quality soul. Their aura had pushed Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi out of the hall. Please calm down. It is hard to say. After all, that great emperor has endured for tens of thousands of years and still has not attacked the human race. It means that his heart is firm and he does not want to defect. He is just relying on the forbidden land to comprehend the immortal realm. Yi Qinghan stepped back and bowed. Sui Xian and Qin Heng were silent. Their hearts were in turmoil. They did not know what to do. The forbidden land. What does it look like? Qin Heng was dispirited. He had wanted to kill his way into the forbidden land his whole life, but they did not even have the qualifications to enter. There are dead spirits everywhere. There are 2 great emperor-level dead spirits. The forbidden land is like a greedy poison. It makes people greedy for immortality, but they are imprisoned there for life. If I were to say, it is a prison of heaven and earth. It imprisons the thoughts of great emperor-level powerhouses and makes them slaves. Turn them into slaves, Yi Qinghan said honestly. Poison, prison. Sui Xian smiled bitterly. He felt that he had aged hundreds of years. He felt that the ideals he had protected for thousands of years were so vulnerable today. Yi Qinghan knelt on one knee and begged in a deep voice, the forbidden land, the ghost emperor, they are all sharp swords hanging above the human race. They can explode at any time. Within 1,000 years, the human race will have a great emperor. I beg you, for the sake of the human race, to allow me to bring the disciples of the crazy sect and the great emperors to cultivate in the God of Killing's realm. We are fighting for the last chance of survival for the human race. Shuxian and Qin Heng's eyes flashed. Bringing the great emperors and the people of the crazy sect into the god of killing's realm had never happened before. Once there was a problem, the ancient god of killing would be in danger. They are willing to swear the ancient god of killing's vow. They will never defect. What's more, the 10,000 races and the human race are about to be destroyed. Why should we defend the mountains and rivers? If the mountains and rivers are not there, what is the use of killing the god of killing's realm? Yi Qinghan raised his voice again and said sincerely. Sigh. I'm old. You can decide on this matter yourself. Or you can ask for Brother Di Shang's opinion. Qin Heng waved his hand helplessly. He felt that the entire endless universe was shrouded in dark clouds and killing intent. Those two sharp swords would cut down at any time and completely reduce the human race to slaves. They would no longer have freedom. Sui Xian lamented. The arrival of the Golden Era must mean that the human race was in danger. Every time the Golden Era ended, the human race would face a great calamity. The human race would rise strongly and a new emperor would appear to suppress the calamity. However, the human race would also suffer heavy losses. The Golden Era this time was even more terrifying. The zither immortal crimson demon physique and the golden bloodline had both appeared. No one knew what kind of calamity the human race would face this time and whether the human race could survive it. Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly. He had no choice but to tell them about the 9-star god of killing's realm. He only hoped that the two great emperors would not interfere with his decision. He did not expect that the two old men's Tao hearts would be shaken. Yi Qinghan brought Emperor Yi out of the main hall. He brought more than 10 princes and the crazy sect's disciples who could be nurtured into the ancient god of killing's realm and swore the ancient god of killing's oath. Everyone, please remember today's oath. The ancient god of killing's secret technique and divine ability that you have seen today must not be leaked. Otherwise, you will be regarded as a traitor and will not be able to escape from the ancient god of killing's realm. I will also take it as my duty to kill traitors. Yi Qinghan stared at everyone and said in a deep voice. Brother Yi, don't worry. We are not that kind of people. As princes of the human race, we will all die for the human race. How would we dare to become traitors? I will be the first to kill them. Xia Qiue held her cold sword tightly and said in a deep voice. Everyone nodded, especially Sikong Junqing and the others. They were especially excited. They were not princes and did not have the support of their families. They relied on their experiences to obtain the secret technique. If they could obtain the support of the ancient god of killing's realm, becoming a true prince was just around the corner. Yi Qinghan carried Di Longtian and led everyone to the god of killing's realm. The human sovereign sword was inserted into the barrier, and the god of killing's realm appeared in everyone's sight. This place was even more powerful than the blessed land of the Tao realm. It was definitely a peerless holy land for cultivation. The spiritual qi was so strong that it made Zhanggu and the others' pores open. They were incomparably excited. The thousands of stone tablets were mighty and mighty. Divine light poured down like the Milky Way, making this world seem like a divine world. The stone tablets moved and those who did not have a firm Tao heart would die just by looking at them. Among the younger generation of the insane sect, only Lin Wuqian, Li Jiuchong, and Huang Xiaohu could enter. Everyone, find a cultivation technique that suits you. Xiaohu, you go and cultivate a divine ability related to the law of gravity. You have never had an offensive secret technique. This time, you must seize the opportunity. Don't cultivate those 6 stone tablets. Those are the 6-path stone tablets. They contain the will of the great emperor. They can kill us instantly. Yi Qinghan reminded in a deep voice. Everyone dispersed and found a cultivation technique that suited them. Yi Qinghan did not cultivate any secret technique. Instead, he entered the palace. He flipped his hand and a supreme treasure with rich vitality appeared in his hand. It was the wood origin. Di Shang was not willing to use it. Such a supreme treasure could not help him regain his life. In the end, he gave it to Yi Qinghan to help him cultivate the 9-revolution chaotic Tao body. Yi Qinghan sat cross-legged on the ground and slowly absorbed the wood origin into his body. The vitality in his body was extremely rich. His vitality was so strong that it was almost burning. Chapter 258. The killing divine world was vast and mighty, connecting to the 9 heavens. The 10-colored divine splendor was like the Milky Way hanging upside down, sparkling with golden light. Zhang Gu, Xia Qiue, and the others each chose a stone tablet. They were all mystical abilities and secret techniques from the ancient times and were incomparably terrifying. See, Wuxia's technique could actually be traced back to the ancient times. 9 Heavens Tyrant Dragon Technique. As long as one understood it thoroughly, they could transform into a tyrant dragon and roam the 9 heavens, suppressing all enemies. Together with the golden battle blood, no one could resist under their hands. Huang Xiaohu chose the heart explosion technique, which could instantly destroy the enemy's heart and destroy their vitality. This kind of secret technique was difficult to cultivate, but once a small success was achieved and the enemy was not on guard, it could definitely instantly kill the arch-level existence. Lin Wuqian cultivated the Emperor Sword technique bitterly and merged it with the solitary sword Dao. His body transformed into a divine sword, without a trace of human aura. Emperor Yi was in an exceptionally good mood. He held the Enlightenment Divine Lotus in his hand and made a face at Xia Ziluo. Xia Ziluo was furious, but she did not dare to make a move in the killing divine world. Otherwise, if she activated the forbidden spell, even a boundary emperor would be instantly killed here. I won't lower myself to your level. Xia Ziluo's mouth revealed a hint of disdain. She directly found a wordless stone tablet and sat down cross-legged. Emperor Yi scanned the surroundings and came to the side of a huge stone tablet. This was the Space Law mystical ability, Extreme Dao Sky Severing Hand. When cultivated to the peak state, one could slice open the sky with a single hand. Across the star field, one could destroy a region. It was a true arch-level mystical ability. The bitter runes could burn a boundary emperor's soul. Without the support of a strong soul, it was impossible to cultivate this arch-level mystical ability. There were a total of more than 20 people. The mystical abilities that they chose were different, and the opportunities that they obtained were also different. Yi Qinghan was still in the main hall at this moment. The main hall was filled with vitality, and the wood origin profound filled the main hall. A massive 7th-grade dragon bone was placed at Yi Qinghan's side, exuding a rich dragon might. The blood and bone of a dragon that had been dead for countless years still hadn't decayed. It contained life force and was equivalent to an elementary divine martial Dao soldier. Yi Qinghan was bathed in the river of blood. His body was crazily tearing at the wood elemental energy and forcefully controlling it within his body. The origin of metal and the divine martial imperial codex were both helping Yi Qinghan. The wood elemental energy couldn't leave the main hall and couldn't even leave the surface of his body. Yi Qinghan's body was constantly tempered, fusing the rank 7 dragon bone into his body. This type of dragon bone was extremely terrifying, and it was impossible to fuse with it. It constantly tore at Yi Qinghan's body, causing it to be filled with blood and bones. The origin of metal repaired the Dao body, while the origin of wood wandered around his limbs and bones. His vitality was dissipating because of the dragon bone. However, the origin of wood gave him an even stronger vitality. At this moment, he didn't have to worry about his vitality. He just had to endure the pain. Yi Qinghan's face twitched. Day after day, for 10 consecutive days, he completely fused the origin of wood and the origin of metal, forming a Dao body of metal, wood, and water. With the help of the boundless wood elemental energy, he finally dared to try to forcefully integrate the spatial laws into his Dao body. In an instant, his body disintegrated, and a bloody mist danced in the air. At this moment, if others were in the main hall, they would definitely be scared out of their wits by Yi Qinghan's craziness. It was too terrifying. Using the spatial laws to forcefully disintegrate one's own body. What kind of terrifying pain would one have to endure? Yi Qinghan's soul was unleashed to the extreme. Through the spatial patterns, he controlled each piece of flesh and used the wood elemental energy to instantly heal them, restoring his golden Tao body. After countless days of continuous bitter cultivation, Yi Qinghan finally fused 3 origins and 1 Tao law into his body. Moreover, he could mobilize these laws to disintegrate his body at any time, dispersing his opponent's attacks into nothingness. Once he could disintegrate his body into atoms and molecules, no one would be able to find Yi Qinghan, and no one would be able to harm him. Unfortunately, in order to reach this level, one's soul must be as strong as a quasi-emperor or even a true emperor. At this time, Yi Qinghan had only fused a portion of the dragon bone. His arms had become the true bones of an azure dragon, and they could be used as immortal Tao weapons. One punch could shatter the defenses of immortal Tao robes and shatter the weapons. The tearing pain caused Yi Qinghan's consciousness to dissipate. He could only choose to temporarily stop tempering his body. More haste, less speed. Yi Qinghan tidied up his clothes and walked out of the hall. His aura was faintly discernible. Because of the dragon bone, the blood vessels in his arms were suffused with a golden glow. His blood was vigorous to the extreme, completely different from the other blood in his body. It actually showed signs of condensing into the bloodline of the dragon race. However, the 7th-grade dragon bone was not a pure dragon, but a hybrid species. The bloodline was not of a high grade, so when the blood in his arms flowed to other parts of his body, it would be neutralized, unable to strengthen his body. Yi Qinghan clenched his fists. He wanted to try and see if his peak attack could completely kill an immortal master. However, there was no chance for him at the moment. Yi Qinghan slowed down. Inside the stone tablet, he saw that the figures of everyone were faintly discernible, as if they were about to leave this world. He couldn't help but be surprised. He turned around and found Emperor Yi and Si Wuxia. He discovered that their bodies were in a phantom state, completely transparent. What Yi Qinghan didn't know was that the two had been directly sucked into the space inside the stone tablet because they had comprehended part of the secret technique. They were now watching the moves of the Great Emperor's phantom. With the personal guidance of the Great Emperor, the two had improved by leaps and bounds. Si Wuxia stood proudly, looking at the barren space. The Great Emperor had transformed into a tyrant dragon, roaming the 9 heavens. His 5 claws shattered the heavens, and the domineering dragon aura suppressed all Taos. The momentum of heaven and earth was defeated. Anyone who faced the 9 heavens tyrant dragon art would become a weak ant. Roar! A golden dragon about 10,000 feet long stretched out its 5 claws, rushing out from the depths of the wilderness. It swept up the momentum of tens of thousands of miles. It was incomparably domineering. Just this aura alone forced Si Wuxia to retreat continuously. Even if the golden bloodline was fully activated and awakened, it couldn't withstand this domineering aura. Si Wuxia stood proudly, shooting out a ray of golden flame from his eyes. His golden hair fluttered in the wind, and he wanted to kill the golden dragon. The first move, Dragon Tail, destroys mountains and rivers. The ancient Great Emperor's voice traveled through time and space. The tyrant dragon roared, and its giant tail swung out from the wilderness. Its aura soared into the galaxy, and the sky collapsed as it smashed into the ground. Si Wuxia felt that his heart was about to be shattered by this attack. His golden battle blood flowed backward, and he almost fainted. This was just a virtual move, an image left behind by the Great Emperor. But it could still pierce through time and space, killing countless experts. Fortunately, Si Wuxia had the golden bloodline, and his ability to control his blood qi was extremely powerful. Otherwise, just this attack alone could crush Wuxia's blood vessels and destroy his heart. Puff! Wuxia spat out a mouthful of golden battle blood and retreated a few steps. His face was as pale as paper, and his blood vessels were bulging. His body was about to collapse. It was too terrifying. The Nine Heavens Tyrant Dragon art, once used by a fake Great Emperor, just this aura alone could kill Wuxia, who had the golden bloodline. Not to mention the Great Emperor personally used it. The second move, Tyrant Dragon Sky-Shattering Roar. The Great Emperor's voice was majestic, and it shook tens of thousands of miles. Even the stone tablet was shaking. It penetrated the shackles with a magnificent aura. The Great Emperor's ability was incomprehensible, and it was enough to overturn all heavenly Daos. The dragon head looked down at the earth, and Wuxia's pupils shrank. He felt that the dragon's eyes were aimed at him. This roar could definitely take away half of his life. Zeng, 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 no matter how strong Wuxia was, he did not dare to face the Great Emperor head-on. Even if it was just an image that spanned tens of thousands of years, he could only fly backward. His eyes were filled with horror, and he felt that death was approaching. Ah! Wuxia roared. His blood qi erupted, and his golden hair pierced through the void. It was as if an emperor had descended. The dragon's body bent, and it was borrowing the momentum to gather the power of heaven and earth. The dragon opened its mouth, and its fangs shattered the heavens. Roar, the roar continued. Suddenly, the heavens fell and the earth cracked. The barren world was filled with sand and stones, and the earth sank. Even the void was distorted and twisted into a fried dough twist. In the end, it could not withstand the roar and completely collapsed. A black hole formed in the void, and a violent storm tore the sand and stones apart. This place became the most terrifying hell on earth. Cough, cough, cough. Puff! Wuxia's eyes widened, and blood spurted out of his 7 orifices. He was unable to look at the third strike. His divine sense scattered, and his figure fell off the stone tablet, unconscious on the spot. Yi Qinghan was shocked. He had comprehended a secret technique, and yet he had suffered such a heavy injury. What kind of cultivation technique had he comprehended? 10 steps combined into one, and Yi Qinghan arrived in front of the stone tablet. He did not have time to look at the cultivation technique on the stone tablet. He quickly placed a 6th-grade healing saint pill into Wuxia's mouth. It melted in his mouth, and in an instant, Wuxia's body emitted a golden light. But his face was still twitching, and his face was pale. It was obvious that his divine sense had suffered a heavy injury. Yi Qinghan did not hesitate to use the heavy mad saber to slash his right arm. But before blood could flow out, the azure dragon arm automatically healed. It was terrifying. Split. Yi Qinghan frowned. He used the law of space and dripped 2 drops of dragon blood from his right arm into Wuxia's mouth. The essence blood seemed to be attracted by the golden blood and immediately rushed to Wuxia's limbs and bones. A large amount of wood elements rushed into his sea of consciousness, helping Wuxia to heal his soul and divine sense. Wuxia's face finally became rosy. He opened his eyes slightly, and when he saw Yi Qinghan, he was relieved and fell into a deep sleep. Yi Qinghan stared at the stone tablet. The 9 Heavens Tyrant Dragon art seemed to have a golden dragon roaming around the stone tablet. It could break through at any time and enter this era. He could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. He sat cross-legged on the ground and chose this cultivation technique. As long as he could reach minor accomplishment, he could condense his entire body into a true azure dragon body. His divine sense wrapped around the obscure runes as he slowly comprehended the 9 Heavens Tyrant Dragon art. The dragon blood in his arms boiled, and his aura erupted. It affected the stone tablet and directly dragged Yi Qinghan into the space inside the stone tablet. After arriving here, Yi Qinghan suddenly felt that he had arrived at the beginning of ancient times. Nothing had been born. Everything was barren, and the vicissitudes of life were overwhelming. A golden dragon hovered in the 9 heavens, overlooking all life on the earth. When it saw Yi Qinghan appear, it was as if it had come alive, and a bright light burst out. 9 heavens tyrant dragon art, golden body transforming dragon, can break all techniques. First move, dragon tail destroying mountains and rivers. Boom! Whoosh whoosh whoosh, a giant golden tail that looked exactly the same as the one that Yi Qinghan was standing on broke through the void and slapped towards the place where Yi Qinghan was standing. Yi Qinghan summoned Berserk, holding the saber with both hands. He borrowed the momentum to stand upright, and his eyes were filled with shock. The first move was already so terrifying. How many moves had Wuxia managed to withstand? Boom! The earth cracked, and the aura rushed to the stars. Yi Qinghan crossed his legs and remained motionless. A terrifying gully appeared under his feet. It was so deep that the bottom couldn't be seen. Yi Qinghan didn't care about this. Instead, he focused on comprehending this move. His black hair danced in the wind, and his clothes were shredded. The illusory attack was also unbearable. The dragon blood in the azure dragon arm boiled. The origin of metal protected the golden body, and the origin of wood constantly healed his injured body. The laws of space shielded part of the impact. The first move was blocked, but what about the second move? The golden dragon coiled. Borrowing the momentum of the heavens, it gathered on his body, and in the blink of an eye, he launched the second move. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.